Ashura left for her new bedchamber. She had lost her appetite and was in no mood to eat a warm meal. Changing swiftly into a nightgown, Ashura snuggled under the furred blankets, wishing Jon Snow would be dead by morning. Everyone said I was fortunate, she thought, closing her eyes. Everyone said Lord Eddard Stark is honorable and kind. How is he a kind husband, settling his bastard in his home and presenting him to me? How can I live with his bastard in the castle? Underscore 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 underscore. Folding her long letter in half, Ashura slowly made her way to the rookery, a silent Desmond trailing behind her. Everywhere she went, she felt the accusing stares of Winterfell's retainers and servants. They all knew about Jon Snow for months, yet they said nothing. She walked across the bridge connected between the fourth level of the bell tower to the second floor of the rookery and caught sight of Maester Luwin tending to the ravens. Lady Stark. He dipped his head politely. Maester Ashura acknowledged. At least Maester Luwin is kind enough to speak to me without a condemning glare. May I be of assistance, my lady? I was about to send a raven to Starfall. The Maester tugged the chain around his neck before reaching for her folded letter. Allow me, my lady. He glanced at her briefly. You look troubled, Lady Stark. Are you ill? Oh, I am in good health, Maester. A little tired, I suppose. I hear it is natural for women in my condition to be often tired. Not stress, my lady. Stressing is not good for you, my lady. Ashura sighed glumly. Maester Luwin would find out anyway. She looked at Desmond. May I have a moment of privacy with Maester Luwin, please? She asked. Desmond nodded and strode away. Ashura waited until he disappeared into the bell tower before returning her attention the patient Maester. I do not belong here in the north, she confessed miserably. How fast does it take for an argument to spread? I am not wanted here. You've only been here for a day, my lady, the Maester reminded her. No one finds home within a day. Everyone here knows about him. They all know I will never accept him as part of my family. Who, my lady? The bastard, Jon Snow. The bastard, mused Maester Luwin. A bastard is as much a living being as the child growing in your belly, me, Lord Stark, you. The bastard Jon Snow is a motherless infant. If I may be bold, my lady, it is ironic you of all people proclaim you will have nothing to do with Lord Stark's son. Why me? The Maester chuckled softly. You are from Dorne, are you not, my lady? When I was a mere acolyte in Old Town, I befriended a novice from Dorne. The natural son of a Dornish lord, he told me that even as a bastard, he was raised as if he was a true-born son. He was taught his letters and sums alongside his half-sisters and half-brothers and was showered with affection as any child would be. He also said that the Dornish considered natural children to be born of passion and love rather than lies and deceit. He further told me that when his father offered to send him away, his wife was horrified at the thought of him abandoning his own flesh and blood to the cruelty of the streets, even if it is a bastard. He eyed her. Is it true, my lady? Ashura looked away, embarrassed. Yes, she admitted. Oberyn Martell raises his 4 bastard daughters alongside his brother's legitimate children. A lump formed in her throat. Did Ned think I would accept his child in the family as soon as I saw him? She inquired with a frown. Surely he would know I am like any other woman. Seeing one's husband's natural children for the first time will no doubt be shocking. You should ask Benjen Stark on the matter, Maester Luwin advised. It will be Benjen Stark who knows Lord Stark more than anyone, with the exception of the king, of course, as they were fostered together in the Eyrie. My lady, perhaps it would be wiser to give the boy another chance. Did Ned tell you of my plans to leave for Starfall? I will not lie, my lady. Lord Stark did mention it last night when he talked to me at supper. Forgive me, my lady, but you do not seem the sort of lady who will run to your childhood home when you sense trouble. Ashura sighed and smiled at the perceptive Maester. I suppose I was tired and unprepared last night, she agreed. Do you know where my husband is as we speak, Maester? Lord Stark is dining with the steward Veon Poole, at his table in the Great Hall, I believe. Do you need assistance to get there, my lady? No thank you. I think I can find my way there. She nodded gratefully at the Maester and turned to leave. My lady. Maester Lewin called. She looked back and saw him holding out her letter. Do you still want this letter sent? He said, a smile lingering on his lips. Ashura shook her head and took it from him. I think I will write another letter, she said, beaming at him. Thank you for your advice, Maester Lewin. If you had not spoken to me, I would be preparing a journey back to Starfall already. Ned still remembers that fateful day he raided the Tower of Joy and slew my brother. He had always been gentle, kind and loving to me since the day we wed. I should learn to love Jon Snow for Ned Stark. For Ned Stark, she said aloud. For Ned Stark she will love Jon Snow, eventually. How is your lady wife? Ned offered his steward a cup of mint tea. He found tea a more calming beverage than ale or wine. Benjen told me she is with child again. You must be delighted. Veon nodded, accepting the mint tea. We hope and pray all will go well with her pregnancy this time. If it is a boy, we will name him Brandon, after your late brother my lord. If it is a girl, she will be called Lyanna, after your sister. I will love the child if it is either a son or daughter. I am honored, said Ned honestly. Benjen had written that many Northmen had asked to name their sons and daughters Rickard, Brandon or Lyanna, or a name of some variation, after the war ended. He suspected there will soon be an entire generation of Rickards, Brandons and Lyannas in the north. He nodded as Veon returned to discussing the stores. He is a loyal man, Ned thought. Benjen said he loved his office more than his own wife. No doubt that is only gossip. The devoted Veon Poole had no luck in sewing children as of yet. Thrice his pretty wife's stomach swelled, thrice she gave birth to sickly babes who did not survive the touch of the harsh northern winds. Hopefully the old gods will bless House Poole with a child this time. And with spring coming, the stores will be stocked more than ever, Veon continued. We are fortunate the latest winter was not particularly long. We still have at least 24 casks of honey and 15 sacks of sugar and salt. I also counted 4 barrels of salted mutton and beef among other kegs, vats, pots and crates in the storerooms. Ned paused mid-nod as he caught sight of Ashura enter the great hall. Even in a grey gown, she looked beautiful. Realizing he no longer had his liege lord's full attention, Veon said quickly, I can return another time, my lord. Ned nodded gratefully. Perhaps tomorrow. Thank you, Veon. He waited as Ashura made her way to the dais. Lord husband, she said, sitting down on Veon's empty chair. My lady, Ned returned icily. If Ashura wants me to be cold, so be it. I thought you are planning to leave for Starfall. His wife's gaze softened a little. I considered it and decided to postpone my plans. The people will think me a craven for running back home to Dorne. I may owe you an apology, my lord. My earlier words towards Jon Snow are insulting and unfit for a lady's lips. Ned nodded. I suppose it was unwise of me to show you the boy without any mention of him before. Would you like some breakfast, Ashura? She nodded, her expression impassive. He signaled a servant and told him, hot bread, butter and honey and blackberry preserves, a rasher of bacon and a soft-boiled egg and a wedge of cheese, if you will. That is too much, Ashura protested as he poured her a cup of mint tea. The bread, bacon and butter will do. You need a strong breakfast to have a strong son. The words echoed in his mind. His father, Rickard Stark, had told his wife that every time she was with child. Ned remembered hearing it when his mother was pregnant with Ben. Even when she retched in the privy or a bucket ever once a few hours, their father had insisted she eat well. Now what changed your mind? Ned said curiously. You were quite adamant in leaving for Starfall. I had a change of heart. She stared at him boldly as she sipped the tea. That is all you need to know. You will treat Jon as your own son. Until mine own comes along. Ned almost laughed. You will treat Jon as your own son, he persisted. And you will never call or address him as a bastard. Have I said Jon Snow is your natural child all morning, Ned? Did I beg and plead for you to rid him from Winterfell? Her meal arrived and she attacked the egg with her spoon hungrily. He looked at her suspiciously. It was as if Ashura had two sides like a coin, the jealous wife and a nurturing mother. He wondered if all women high-born and low were like that. Lioness certainly had a temper, but she could play the sweet, docile daughter when required. "It will be good for our son to have companions his age," said Ashura, drizzling honey on her bread. "Who better than his half-brother who will serve in his army when the time comes? My niece Daenerys will be a friend to our daughter if we happen to be blessed with one, and she may even serve as our future daughter's handmaid if needed. Feigned bastard or no, Daenerys Targaryen no, Sand will never be a handmaid." What is Ashura thinking? She knows as well as I do who Daenerys truly is. "Have you thought of fostering other highborn children?" his wife inquired. "I won't be surprised if the king asks you to foster his future heir. The queen confided in me that she feared all her children will be sent off as wards to other great houses." "That is the best way to forge alliances," said Ned plainly. "If the lord is more than pleased with the ward, he will betroth him to one of his daughters." "I am aware of that." She bit into her bread. "Are you not hungry?" "I already ate with Veon Pool." Ashura continued eating, one violet eye on her food and the other on him. She finished her bread and started chewing the bacon. It was devoured within a few seconds. Following the bacon was the remains of the soft-boiled egg. "There will be a feast in a few days," said Ned, breaking the silence. "All the northern lords and their immediate families will come, most of them eager to see you. Some of the lords may speak to you harshly. They want to see if I am worthy enough to be the Lady of Winterfell." Ashura finished. "If they like me, they will trust me as much as they trust you. If the lords decide I am a dainty flower from the south, they will tolerate me. Do not worry, Ned, I will prove to them I am no Southron flower." "Southron star more like," remarked Ned dryly. He drained the rest of his mint tea. "You will treat Jon well," he said again. Ashura said nothing. She only smiled. Underscore 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 underscore. Ned found Benjen in the crypts, staring blankly at the stone tomb of their late father. The stonemason Ned had commissioned had known him well. Gazing at Lord Rickard Stark's tomb, Ned recalled how he would sit on the oak chair in the great hall with quiet dignity, his stone fingers tightly holding the sword across his lap, almost matching the manner he grasped the hilt of the Stark's ancestral Valyrian steel greatsword ice when he was alive. "Lyanna is almost finished," said Benjen quietly, nodding at the faceless statue beside his father's tomb. "The stonemason told me both Lyanna and Brandon's tombs will be finished in a month or two. I wanted him to carve a wreath of roses on Lyanna's head, but then..." His voice softened further. "It will only remind me of that day in the tourney at Harrenhal. I wish Lyanna stayed at home. If she did, she would be alive and happily married to Robert Baratheon." "Alive, but not happy," commented Ned. "Robert drinks gallons of wine, goes hunting for days and has an unquenchable thirst for women. Will there ever be a woman happily married to him? He is the king. King he may be, he will always be Robert to me. Giving him a crown had not changed him into a King Jaehaerys the Wise. He will always drink, hunt and take mistresses for the rest of his life." "Does Queen Catelyn accept it without complaint?" Ned nodded. "Aye. She is a good woman, our queen. She accepts his infidelities without an open complaint and tried to convince him to drink less. If there is any noble woman in Westeros who did not marry Robert to be his queen, it is Catelyn Tully. I suspect she will be another good Queen Alysanne." He smiled. "Catelyn is more suited to be queen than Lyanna ever will be. The people love Lyanna too. The Northerners love Lyanna. The Southroners think of her as the tragic and beautiful figure in a song the bards sing. Lyanna is of the North, she would not have known how to be a Southron queen." Benjen was silent. "I lost her horse," he blurted out. "What?" said Ned, taken back. "Whose horse?" "Lyanna's." He could not look him in the eye. "When you were in Dorne, the horse ran away. The men tried to corner her but she escaped. Hullen rode after her, but even he could not catch her. A few days after that, we received news of Lyanna's death. Now I wish Lyanna's horse was still here. You would only miss her more." "Will Ashura actually leave for Starfall?" Ned shook his head. "I should not have showed her Jon last night. It was my fault." "Do you like her?" She wrote me a few letters when you were in King's Landing and I thought her kind. When I saw her yesterday, she reminded me of Lyanna. Do you think Ashura likes riding? Perhaps you can take her riding around Winterfell when she settles in. He looked hopefully at Ned. I always forget he lost Brandon, Lyanna and our father so young. Maybe. Ned managed a smile. You told me you considered taking the Black to be a man of the Night's Watch. Benjen nodded determinedly. A Stark always mans the wall. Even when our father was alive, I considered becoming a Black brother. You do not want to serve in the Kingsguard. There is still a vacant spot or two if you are interested. Barristan the Bold and the Blackfish both serve and you can join them as a sworn brother. Ben, the Night's Watch is not as glorious as it once was. Half the men there are rapers, thieves and murderers. From the dwindling number of Black brothers, most likely only a quarter of them chose to take the Black nobly. There is nothing for me in the south, Ned. Benjen's sad eyes reminded Ned of those of a desolate pup. Lyanna went south and she was abducted, Brandon went south and he was murdered, and father went south soon after and he too was murdered by the Mad King. No, my place is in the north. I want to forget all about the war and the deaths. When you were serving as the Master of Laws in King's Landing, you did not see all the bodies return in carts pulled by horses, some by oxen or mules. When you argued with the other councillors, I lit a candle every time Lord Reed sent me a letter regarding a cart entering the border between the Twins and Greywater Watch. He shivered. I lit so many candles, Ned. When Lord Reed returned Lord Dustin's red stallion to his widow per your instruction, the poor lady raged with grief. A tear glistened on his pale cheek. Do you know what she said to me before she left for Barrowton? My husband swore to return mounted on the steed, she said. That horse was the pride of Lord Ryswell's herd. How will I ever forget those words, Ned? I did not kill men like you did, but how can I forget Lady Dustin's words? Ned patted Benjen on the shoulder. We Northerners swallow it and move on. His heart ached as he continued. Though we pretend to move on, we will remember. The North remembers. The North remembers, Benjen repeated. He gave one more downcast look at the three tombs before ascending the narrow and winding spiral stone steps to the ironwood door. A chilly breeze kissed the back of Ned's neck as he followed Benjen to the entry of the crypts. It was no surprise that down here in the crypts, it was colder than, say, the courtyard, but it felt different. Restless spirits, Ned thought. He shook it from his mind. Do not worry, Ned. Benjen opened the door, allowing another gust of wind to charge in. Even if I do choose to be a man of the Night's Watch, I won't leave Winterfell until your son is born. When you have your heir, I will leave. There must always, started Ned. Be a Stark at Winterfell, his brother finished. There must always be a Stark manning the wall too. Underscore 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 underscore. After tasting a portion of honeyed chicken, Ned was so full he could not take another bite. He smiled as Ashura laughed at a childhood story Benjen told her. I am pleased she is making an effort to be happy here. I am never one for feasts, but this is an excellent opportunity for Ashura to know the northern lords and ladies. Who knows? She may find a friend in one. To his disappointment, Howland Reed had declined. Ned knew it was no slight at all. Howland's reasons are his own. For all he had done for him, Ned accepted the Cranogman's vague letter of refusal. Besides, Howland had already met and acquainted himself with Ashura in Starfall. Ned gazed down at the 8 long rows of trestle tables. Closest to the raised platform were 2 Sowins of Sowin, Lord Major Sowin's tunic bearing his house sigil of a black battle axe on silver, his plump and rather comely 14-year-old daughter Jonelle sitting between him and his right-hand man Sir Kyle Condon. Across from them sat the pale blue-eyed tall hearts of Torrens Square, Sir Helman and his younger brother Leobold, the latter recently wedded to Lady Birena Hornwood and father of Brandon Tallheart, one of many northern babes named. After Ned's late brother, Lady Birena chatted with her brother, the jovial Lord Harleys and his wife Donella Mandaly, the former wearing a dark orange cloak displaying the brown Hornwood bull moose, and the amiable Lord Wyman Mandaly sat on Donella's right, his booming laughs crushing the music played by the two bards Ned hired yesterday afternoon. Ned craned his head and saw more familiar lords from the flood of northerners. The gaunt and large Ricard Carstark of Carhold, his thick beard and hair loose past his shoulders. His cloak of wolf pelt was clasped around his throat by the silver sunburst of his house, the proud and boisterous Lord Greationumber of the Last Hearth, a large, heavily muscled warrior almost 7 feet tall, and the cold lord of the dread Fort Roose Bolton, his eerily pale eyes focusing on his Risswell wife. Ned suppressed a sigh. It came as no surprise Lady Dustin was nowhere to be seen. "Who is she?" said Ashura, nodding at Lady Mage Mormont, muttering to a man in Mormont colours next to her. "Lady Mage Mormont," Ned replied. "She is the Lord of Bear Island's aunt. It must be the new Lord Mormont of Bear Island sitting beside her." Ashura squinted at her. "Is she wearing ringmail?" Ned chuckled. "All women of Bear Island learn how to defend themselves from the Ironborn and Wildings. Her brother Gia told me that her favorite weapon is a spiked mace. Does a woman in ringmail astonish you?" "Not really. I've heard rumors Oberyn Martell is teaching his daughters the arts of war when they are old enough to grasp a spear." She sipped her ale. "Have you visited Bear Island before?" "Not of yet." "Where is Lord Howland Reed?" "I was hoping to see him here." "He had Crannog men to deal with, I think." "Why, Howland? Is there a matter amiss in Greywater Watch I have yet to hear?" Then again, perhaps Howland Reed felt intimidated by rather fierce northerners such as Greationumber or Roose Bolton. Foolish thoughts, Ned chided himself. Howland Reed fears more than the other northern lords. "Maester Lewin," he addressed the Maester who sat on his right. "Have you received any ravens from King's Landing?" "Nothing eventful, my lord," Maester Lewin responded. "The Lord Hand has written that the king chose his good father Lord Hoster Tully to replace you as the Master of Laws. Lord Tully has continued with your laws, and crime in King's Landing is still decreasing at a good speed." Ned stifled a groan. "Robert, do you ever learn? Do you wish to endanger your queen and her family any further? Have you learned naught from Jon Arryn? You must not give powerful positions to a certain family." Making Jon the king's hand was expected. Then he married Lady Lysa Tully, Robert's good sister. Bestowing a white cloak upon the Blackfish was forgivable. He was a war hero from the War of the Ninepenny Kings and deserved a place in the King's Guard. Naming Hoster Tully the new Master of Laws, unacceptable especially in the eyes of the other great lords such as Tywin Lannister and Mace Tyrell. Lord Arryn did not say anything. Ned frowned. "You will have to ask him yourself, my lord," answered Maester Lewin. Lord Arryn's letter did not go into specific details. "I have it on my desk somewhere if you wish to read it later, my lord." "How is the Queen?" "Her Grace is well and with child. The Lord Hand wrote that there was a grand tourney in King's Landing to celebrate the news. I suspect the King will insist on another tourney once his heir is born." Ned nodded. "I prefer to stay here, but once the Queen births her child, I will go south to King's Landing to celebrate with Robert. Perhaps then, I will try and convince him to choose another Master of Laws." He paused. Why did Robert not honor Lord Randall Tarley with that post? Lord Tarley was a soldier and one of the most formidable commanders in the Seven Kingdoms. Putting criminals in line should be an easy task for such a man. Besides, naming the Lord of Hornhill as Master of Laws will surely please the Reach. "What of Sir Edmure Tully?" Ned inquired. "Did the king honor him too?" "The Lord Hand did not say, my lord." "I assume he did not, or the Lord Hand would have mentioned it." Ned nodded, slightly relieved. "The last thing I wish is hostility between the Tullys and other great houses." "Yes. We all want peace. Lord Arryn is a clever man, he will smooth relations between his in-laws and the other great houses. Perhaps it will take a marriage or two, but I am certain there will be peace. If only we are as optimistic as you, Maester Lewin." Ned smiled as Greation lumbered up to him. "Lord Ned," the Greation bellowed warmly. "We all thought you developed a liking for the bloody South. Strange too, as old Ricard died there like many of our good men. Now that you're back, all is well, eh?" He gulped down half his large flagon of ale, droplets trickling onto his beard. "Greationumber." Ned grinned. When he first met the large man, he thought him a proud and formidable warrior with the biggest and ugliest great sword at his side. When Ned called his bannermen to arms, the fierce Lord John Umber had challenged him for a good reason. Whatever he said convinced the great soldier. He now considered the Great Yon to be one of his most faithful Lord Bannermen and closest friends. Mayor Stillowin quietly moved to the empty seat beside Benjen. Ned nodded at him with thanks and the Great Yon sat down, a servant replenishing his ale. He grunted and eyed Ashura with interest. "Pretty wife, Ned." The Great Yon nodded with approval. "Instead of befriending death, you go south and come back with a beautiful bride. Your brother went south to wed a Tully. The Tully girl is now the queen and you married to the Sword of the Morning's lovely sister who is now carrying your child. Strange, eh? How is your boy?" The Great Yon chuckled. "Do you know what some of my men have begun to call him? The Small John. Still a boy, but I plan to gift him a sword for his next name day. A small version of mine own blade. I love all my sons and daughters, but between you and me, Ned, I will always be more proud of John. I heard a rumor you had begot a bastard. Is it true?" "The people will all know eventually," Ned affirmed quietly. The Great Yon grinned. "It is for the sake of love and honor I brought Jon Snow home. Mine own honor solid for Jon's, a sacrifice I gladly made." Ned winced again as he heard Ashura scream. He felt sick when he killed his first man in battle. The cries of a woman in childbed sounded more agonizing. He felt himself pulled towards the Godswood. He resisted. Ashura needed him here, not praying in the Godswood. "Stay calm," said Benjen, as he watched Ned pace around worriedly. "Walking around in circles will not help Ashura. What if she dies?" Benjen looked uncertain. "Ashura looks able to carry children. So did our mother." "There is always a chance," Ned insisted. "Many women die of childbed fever, highborn ladies no exception." He huffed. "I need to go to the Godswood, Ben. I cannot stand around here waiting, doing nothing." He turned to leave, but the door to Ashura's chambers opened and Mayor Stillowin came out, wiping his hands on a linen towel. "My lord," he said, dipping his head quickly, "Lord Benjen." "Lady Stark." "Is she well?" interrupted Ned. "Has she recovered?" "I am certain Lady Stark will recover within a day or two," answered Mayor Stillowin calmly. "She is exhausted and should remain in bed for the rest of the day, mayhaps even half of tomorrow. I will inform Gage to prepare warm soup with meat and bread for Lady Stark." "My lord, Lady Stark is awake now if you wish to see her." He smiled. "Congratulations, my lord. You have a son." He headed to the kitchens as Ned rushed in his wife's chambers, Benjen behind him. When he entered Ashura's rooms, he was knocked in the stomach by a wave of heat. The bedchamber was usually warm, but today, it was stifling. Ned bounded to the windows and pulled away the heavy tapestries, breathing deeply as a light wind danced in. He smiled at a tired Ashura who looked twice as worse than a bloody soldier. Her black hair was tangled and strands of it plastered across her clammy forehead with beads of sweat. Her dry lips formed a smile as she cradled a sleeping babe wrapped in furs. "Your son," she said, beaming brightly. "Our son. Our little boy." Ned stared at the infant, mesmerized. Although red-faced, the babe had little strands of dark hair. He gingerly caressed his son's tiny fingers. As if on cue, the baby's eyes fluttered open. Ned held his breath as he saw a pair of wide, purple eyes stare back at him. There was no doubt the infant was of Dane blood. Ned took him from Ashura's arms and rocked him gently. "What will you call him?" Ashura's weary voice interrupted his thoughts. Ned frowned slightly and chuckled as his son's tiny fingers curled around his thumb and squeezed it. "He is strong," he chortled. Ashura smiled. "A name, mayhaps. I don't think we can keep calling him the babe or our son." Ned laughed. Over the last few months, he and Ashura had discussed an array of baby names for both sons and daughters. As the firstborn child, no matter the sex, though Ashura insisted it will be a boy, both Ned and Ashura had agreed to give it a good northern name. Ashura had suggested Brandon or Ricard to honor the memory of his dead brother and father, but Ned ruled it out. "The North remembers," he had said. "The North always remembers. Naming my firstborn son after one of them, it will stir old memories, not all pleasant to some Northerners." Ned considered Torren, but his son looked naught like a Torren Stark. "Cregan," he suggested, remembering the old man of the north from a story his father once told him. Ashura wrinkled her nose. Cregan Stark. For a child of a Stark and Dane. If our son has your grey eyes, perhaps. Osric. Maybe a northern name will not suit a child with my eyes. Ned nodded in agreement. He continued to rock their son as he racked his mind for a suitable name. Willem. Ashura looked at the infant and shook her head. Reynold. Ned almost snorted. That is a name in the Westerlands, is it not? All the other northern lords will think us weak for naming our firstborn Reynold Stark. He thought again and a name struck him. Robb. Underscore 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 underscore. I see you have placed your son in your old crib. Clad in black furs, Benjen went in the nursery and looked at his sleeping nephew. Ned nodded, smiling for the 5th time that afternoon. Ashura had fell asleep shortly after she agreed to their son christened Robb in honor of King Robert Baratheon, and Ned carried little Robb to the warm nursery where an extra crib had been prepared. Today, the other 2 cribs housed no babes. Jon and Daenerys sat on a large furred rug, playing with 2 stuffed direwolf toys Ashura had made with Wyla's help during her middle stages of pregnancy. They had even managed to make a stuffed grey direwolf for Robb. Do you think the Northern Lords will approve? Ned wondered. They always expected my heir to have a northern name. Benjen raised an eyebrow. You are the child's father. You have the honor of giving him whatever name you please. You do not name your son to please your bannerman, you name him as he is your son, not theirs. Robb is a child of Winterfell. A child of Winterfell he may be, but foremost he is the son of Eddard Stark and Ashura Dayne. Benjen smiled at Robb. The king will be delighted to hear of your son named after him. Oh. He breathed as Robb opened his eyes and stared at him in wonder. Robb has Ashura's purple eyes. The first Stark to have purple eyes. Ben's own blue eyes sparkled. He looked at Daenerys quickly. How is she? Placid and happy, I suppose. She is only a year old. She is healthy, comfortable, and according to Maester Lewin, a perfectly bonny babe. Ned lowered his voice to a whisper. As long as a Baratheon remains on the Iron Throne, she will never be safe. For now she is protected by the bastard named Sand, but when she grows up, someone will eventually suspect her hair and eyes will more than give it away. All I can do is hope no one will send assassins here. Why are you telling me this? Benjen tickled Robb's pink cheek with a gloved finger. Would it not be better if you kept it all to yourself? The more people you tell, the more dangerous it is for all of us. I trust you, Ben. You are my brother. If something happens, I want you to take Daenerys and run. What about Robb? Jon. You want me to abandon Winterfell? Ned shook his head vigorously. Of course not. There must always be a Stark in Winterfell. You think me mad, brother? Your eyes are asking why I want you to risk your life for the sake of the last dragon when mine own foster brother is the king. Our father, brother and hundreds of Northmen died at the hands of the Mad King. Why should we save his daughter from harm? It is the right thing to do. Ned nodded with a heavy sigh. If Robert did not hold such a murderous grudge against the Targaryens, I could have persuaded him to allow me to foster the last Targaryens as wards. What happened to Viserys Targaryen? Ned was silent. I don't know, he said finally. Have you set your heart on joining the Night's Watch? There is absolutely naught I can do to convince you to stay. Veonpool is an excellent steward, but Winterfell needs a Castellan if the king summons me back to King's Landing. The people know and will listen to you. Who better to be Winterfell's Castellan? Benjen chuckled and shook his head. Winterfell needs no Castellan. You have your heir, and I have decided to be a man of the Night's Watch. We had this talk many times, Ned, and no bribes nor threats can convince me to stay. I am as much a son of Winterfell as you, but for me, Winterfell holds memories I dearly wish to forget, and what better place to erase them from my mind than the Wall? What's more, you should have received letters from Lord Commander Corgyle and Gia Mormont. The Wall is in need of good, strong men. I will go to the wall with as many volunteers I can find. You have not said your vows yet, Ben. You cannot go around collecting and asking for recruits already. Benjen laughed. Gia and I exchanged letters for months, and he suspected I will not leave Winterfell until after your child is born. He sent a wandering crow to accompany me to the wall, and he can recruit men. Has he arrived yet? Yes. I saw him talk to Hullen as he tended his horse. The Black Brother will most likely head to the Great Hall shortly. Do you know who this Black Brother is? Not of yet. However, Gia Mormont mentioned a name. He paused for a moment. Yoren. That's his name. Yoren. Have you heard of him before? Ned nodded slowly. A good man, Yoren. He's said to be one of the wall's best warriors until he suffered a shoulder injury. The last thing I heard about Yoren was that he was given the task of traveling around the Seven Kingdoms to find recruits and criminals to bring back to the wall. I met him once, when I was still a ward in the Eyrie. Yoren took one look at me and said, "You are a bloody Stark, Lord Rickard's son." I have not seen him since. You will be tonight. Will you have a feast to celebrate? Another feast. Since his return to the north, the only feast Ned had hosted was the welcoming feast. Frankly, he'd hoped not to organize another feast for at least a little over half a year. The other lords expect it. Robb is your firstborn and your heir. Ned looked at him. I suppose I can think it as your farewell feast, he wearily conceded. I will go and tell Gage. It will take the Umbers, Mormonts, Reeds, Flints of Flint's Finger and Karstarks at least a few days to arrive. A hastily arranged feast will never be a good idea. Perhaps host one when Robb is 100 days old. Ned arched an eyebrow. 100 days old. It will give you time to prepare, send the ravens and for the guests to decide when to ride for Winterfell. Lionel once said the heir of Winterfell always has splendid festivities to celebrate his birth. Benjen quietened. Did our father have any celebrations when I was born? Not as grand as the festivities thrown at Brandon's birth. Ned suspected their father only organized a small feast after Benjen was born. He was the third son after all. Brandon said mother was ill, the first time she felt weak after laboring a child. There was a feast, answered Ned. I'm sorry, Ben, I do not recall any other events. I was only a child of 4 when you were born. If Brandon was here, I'm certain he would have remembered more. Benjen nodded. At least there was a feast. He smiled almost sadly as Robb began to cry. Is he hungry? Benjen wondered. Milord. A buxom woman hurried in the nursery, bobbing her head as she caught sight of Ned and Benjen. The little lordling has called. No doubt he is wanting some milk. Not wishing to be exposed to a pair of large breasts heavy with milk, Ned and Benjen departed, leaving the children in the capable care of the wet nurse found and hired by Ashura with the aid of Maester Lewin. Together, they headed to the Great Hall just as a Black Brother stomped in, cursing loudly. Yoren. Ned called, recognizing him. The Black Brother looked at him and he grinned. Lord O Stark. Lord Stark now, eh? He trudged up to him and Ben and grinned again. Yoren was an unsightly man stooped with a twisted shoulder, his coarse and ugly features hidden behind a thick and matted black beard. Lice-ridden with a lingering foul stench and tattered garments that have long since faded to grey, he represented all the hardships of manning the wall and serving as a man of the Night's Watch. Last time we met, you were Lord Arryn's ward, Yoren recalled, accepting the mug a Valar servant offered him. Now you're the Lord of Winterfell. How things can change, Lord. He nodded at Benjen. Benjen Stark. Gia Mormont told me you'll be accompanying me back to the wall to be sworn in as a man of the Night's Watch. Soon I will call you my brother, eh? Ben laughed. Yoren. Soon enough. Yoren looked back at Ned. Your master o' horse, Hullen, he said your lady wife gave birth. Congratulations, Lord. Son or daughter? Son, Ned replied, gesturing for him and Benjen to sit beside and across him at one of the trestle tables. He turned to the waiting servant. Some food and drink if you will, he ordered. Congratulations, Lord, Yoren said again. An heir, eh? Ned nodded. Robb. Robb Stark. Named after our good King Robert Baratheon, the first of his name. Yoren raised his cup almost mockingly and drank. Ned said nothing. Yoren was known to be the type of man with little to no patience for fools. He also did not mince his words. I hope our good king will bring stability to the Seven Kingdoms. Yoren wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. What we need is good stability. The Mad King brought nothing but death. Let's hope King Robert will remedy it with a long reign of peace. If he does, hopefully there will be more honorable and voluntary recruits for the Night's Watch. He sighed gloomily. The Night's Watch is not what it once was. Full of criminals and vagabonds these days. Ned glanced at his Benjen. His brother did not seem dismayed at the prospect of embracing thieves, rapers and murderers as his brothers. Sir Denys Mallister is a man of the Night's Watch, Ned pointed out. Hasn't he been the commander of the Shadow Tower for 17 years? Why doesn't he go and recruit young men? Surely he can. Yoren snorted. Convince young noblemen to join because of his valor and reputation as a former Tony Knight. Pa. Besides, Sir Denys Mallister is more useful a soldier than a recruiter. His eyes swiveled to Ben. You, lad. When do you plan to leave for the war? I thought I was to leave with you. Benjen looked puzzled. Tomorrow at dawn. What? It came as a blow to Ned. He glanced at Benjen again and was reminded of the little brother trailing behind him, holding a small wooden sword during their childhood. So soon, questioned Ned. Why not stay another day? I will have guest chambers prepared for you. Yoren dismissed it with a wave of his scarred hand. No need, Lord Stark. I plan to recruit men on the way back to the wall. On the way here, I saw people leave Wintertown. There will surely be an inn open still, and now that spring is coming, there might be more volunteers. Instead of traveling on the King's Road straight back to the wall, I plan to journey through the north, stopping at villages in Bolton and Umberlands to find recruits before heading through Molestown to Castle Black. I hope your horse is well rested, Benjen. At least allow me to supply you with nourishment, waterskins and horses. Ned tried. You cannot mean to ride all the way to Castle Black on one horse with low supplies, especially if you manage to gather recruits. That will be good, admitted Yoren. Thanks, Lord. Ned nodded. I am always happy to aid a man of the Night's Watch. Underscore 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 underscore. As the sun peeked shyly over the northern mountains like a blushing maiden, Ned, Ashura and Maester Stillowin gathered in the courtyard, all dressed in furs, to farewell Benjen. Clad in black furs with a long sword strapped to his back, Benjen glowed with excitement like a squire about to be knighted. He clambered on his horse as bags of food and drink were secured to the other steed. Promise you will ride. Ned handed him the reins of the second horse. I hope you will visit us from time to time, Ben. Please do not leave. It's still not too late to change your mind. We can tell Yoren, we can tell him. Stay safe, Ned said, a lump forming in his throat. I will, Benjen promised, his blue eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Do you wish for me to convey any messages to Lord Umber? No doubt Yoren and I will meet him on the way to the wall. Enjoy your journey to Castle Black. I heard not all Black brothers can return south from the wall once sworn in. I will. Benjen grinned at him. I promise I will return for Rob's 100-day feast. You may not even recognize me then. Ned chuckled uneasily. I will. You are my brother, and unless you decide to be a faceless man in Bravos, I will spot you as easily as I identify northern sigils on a battlefield. He watched as Ashura murmured words to Ben. Ben gallantly kissed her hand and waved farewell. Ned felt his heart sink like a stone to the bottom of one of the 3 small pools in the Godswood. Why, Ben? Ashura gently squeezed his hand, and they along with Maester Stillowin all observed Benjen Stark ride through the great main gates across the drawbridge. By the time Benjen trotted closer to the market square of the Wintertown, to Ned, he was only a small speck in the distant horizon. underscore 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 underscore. After ending a petty land dispute between the representatives of clans Little and Nuri, Ned went straight to the nursery. Over the last 2 weeks, he had found himself spending more and more time with the children. Daenerys was a quiet babe, preferring to sit in front of the fireplace on the furred rug and calmly watch the flames greedily consume the large logs. Ned wondered if staring at the fire had anything to do with her Targaryen heritage. Jon too, was reserved, reminding Ned of himself as a child. Ned oft found Jon's dark grey eyes staring intently at him as Jon rested in his crib or was fed by the cooing wet nurse. So far, Robb did nothing but sleep, cry and eat. Maester Luwin had assured him it was perfectly normal in a newborn infant. Sometimes Ashura visited the nursery with Ned. When she did, Ned noticed she stayed a short distance away from Jon. Today was no different. "Why are you sitting over there?" he asked Ashura, who sat beside Robb's crib, her back facing Jon. "Would you not feel more comfortable facing the fireplace? You can still see and play with little Robb over here." Ned scooted over on the fur-covered bench, leaving room for her. He watched as her smile contorted into a frown. "Please do not tell me you despise him again." Ashura quickly glanced at Jon before muttering, "Jon's eyes. He is staring, always staring. If he does this as a babe, what kind of boy will he be? Please tell me there is a northern house willing to foster him." "No one will foster him," Ned reminded him. "My lord." Maester Luwin shuffled in. "There is a man waiting for you in the courtyard. He bears the sigil of House Dustin." Ned nodded and stood up. Kissing Ashura on the cheek, he left and hurried to the courtyard, pondering all the possible reasons why Lady Dustin would send one of her men here. Standing patiently by the great main gates was a tall man sworn to House Dustin of Barrowton. He held the reins to 2 horses, a chestnut-brown Roundsey and a red foal. It was astonishing the foal could even survive the journey from Barrowton to Winterfell. "Lord Stark." The man dipped his head. "Lady Dustin ordered me to come here bearing a gift for the young lorderling." He handed Ned the reins of the red foal. "It is from Lady Dustin's small herd of fine horses. She also instructed me to give you this letter, my lord." His mind shouting misgivings, Ned glanced at the letter. "Lord Stark, House Dustin congratulates you and your lady wife for the birth of a Stark heir. It is well known that your late sister, the Lady Lyanna, was a fine rider. Perhaps your son will be one too. Some say the bond between a lorderling and a foal is as strong as one between a dog and his master. This foal is the product of my late husband's war horse and another of my father's herd. I hope the little lorderling will love his horse and be an excellent rider one day. Lady Dustin." The icy wind swarmed around Benjen, occasionally jabbing him through his black furs as he stood on the wall. He watched the sun's golden fingers slowly creep up from the horizon against a canvas of pink, orange and blue. It was not any warmer than at midnight. Underneath the thick fur, Benjen wore leather and wool, a scarf wrapped around his mouth and the hood of his cloak pulled over his face. His sword hung at his side in a leather sheath and across his chest was a gleaming black war horn banded with silver. Grasping the shaft of a tall, heavy spear tipped in iron, his fingers were stiff and frozen from the merciless pokes of the cold breeze throughout his watch. Yet to swear his solemn vows, Benjen Stark had been assigned night guard 5 times already. Considering himself as green as some of the young recruits Yoren had collected during their journey from Winterfell to the Wall, Benjen enjoyed battling the harsh winds every night. After a supper of hot pork pies and warm ale, Benjen would clamber inside the iron cage and yank on the bell rope thrice, hard. The ground slowly fell away as he ascended higher and higher. He was above the towers and still inching his way upward. Looking down, the starkness and emptiness of Castle Black was more than clear. Windowless keeps, crumbling walls, courtyards choked with broken stone. The cage jerks to a sudden stop and Benjen would step down onto the crushed stone across the walkways of the wall. Usually he would chat to 2 of his future sworn brothers, one leaning on the winch and the other holding the cage, before beginning his night guard. Benjen watched the sun sluggishly rise before trundling to the iron cage, his legs as stiff from the cold as his fingers. Reaching the bottom, he headed to the common hall, his hood falling down. A ray of sunlight hit the back of his mop of dark hair as he pushed open the door of the great timbered keep. He made his way to the front of the large hearth, accommodating a small, crackling fire, and sighed with a relieving shudder as the frostiness melted from his fingers and his toes. If the wall was this chilly at the beginning of spring, he could not help but wonder how cold it would be in the heart of a long winter. His stomach yowling with hunger, Benjen accepted a bowl of thick cream of wheat with a generous spoonful of butter melting in the middle and a dollop of honey from Castle Black's main cook, Three Finger Hob. Only a couple of men had appeared for breakfast, no doubt other men who served night guard, and Benjen chose to sit at the bench with the best view. As he ate, he heard cries and squawks from the crows nesting in the timbers of the lofty ceiling. He smiled. It reminded him of Winterfell's rookery. Spooning up more of the cream of wheat, a broad-shouldered man sat down opposite him with his own bowl of breakfast. "Nice, eh?" he said, nodding at the big spoon of butter and honey. "You don't get this in winter." Benjen looked at him and his eyes widened. "Jeor Mormont." The former lord of Bear Island chuckled whilst maintaining a stern gaze. "I'm pleased you already know me by sight, Benjen Stark. I heard of your reputation, Lord Mormont." "Lord Mormont?" Jeor Mormont snorted. "I have not heard that in years. Call me Jeor or Mormont, whichever you prefer." Benjen smiled. "Very well, Mormont. How is Ned?" "Well. He is now a father as well as the Lord of Winterfell. Congratulations. I will instruct my son to send your nephew a gift from Bear Island. Do you think a small spiked mace will be too much?" He chuckled as he swallowed a spoonful of his breakfast. "No doubt my sister Mage may deem it an appropriate gift for the heir of Winterfell. If Rob's mother was Catelyn Tully, she would be shocked. As it is Ashura, I will be interested to hear her reaction." "Have you heard the news? Catelyn Baratheon had recently given birth to a stillborn son. Our king is devastated." "You do not sound upset." "Then again, men of the Night's Watch do not take part in the intrigues of the South. Some have already begun saying it is a mistake for King Robert to take a Trout as wife," Jeor Mormont continued, "Lord Tywin Lannister one of them. I suspect he desired his own daughter to be King Robert's queen." "Poor Catelyn." "Poor Queen Catelyn indeed," Mormont agreed. "I met her Lord Father before, a clever and ambitious man. Oh, Lord Tully may not look ruthless like the Lord of Casterly Rock, but he is one determined Trout." He chortled. Catelyn Baratheon would have been happier the wife of a highborn lord rather than queen. So much for the Tully words when the chance of being good father of the king was in Lord Tully's grasp. If that was not all, he married his younger daughter to a man old enough to be her grandfather. "You are quite well informed, Mormont. Everyone knows about it, Stark. Even here at the wall. Some of the younger, more uncouth men were laughing about it. Of course a young maiden wedding an elderly lord has been done before, but do you not find it strange Lord Tully will agree to it when he is the king's good father? It is no longer our concern, Mormont. I thought men of the Night's Watch no longer keep an interest with matters of the South." "Very true, Stark. However, you are not a man of the Night's Watch yet." Jeor Mormont looked at him intently. "Do you still desire to be a man of the Night's Watch, Stark? It is not too late to leave and return to Winterfell as Lord Stark's brother and the little lordling's uncle." "Why do you ask, Mormont?" Mormont shrugged. "A few nobles have changed their minds in the past. You have seen your future brothers, criminals, the lot of them. Are you still willing to embrace them as your brothers once you say your vows? Would it surprise you if I tell you I already befriended a few?" "Yes." Benjen scraped the remains of his breakfast and swallowed it. "What of those who raped and killed the innocent? Wouldn't those type of people be hanged?" "Nothing you say will make me change my mind," Mormont said Benjen coldly. "I will be a fool if I decide on a whim to return to my former life. You remind me of old Rickard Stark. Once he decides upon something, he will not change his mind." Mormont finished his bowl of cream of wheat. Before I forget, Lord Commander Corgal wishes to have a word with you." "Now. It is never good to keep the Lord Commander waiting, Stark." Benjen stood up. "Very well. I will see him now." He paused. "Out of interest, what order are you in?" "Ranger," came the swift response. What did people call you when you were a son of Winterfell? The wolf pup. A pup no longer, eh? I wager you are like all the other knights and lesser nobles, wishing to be rangers. I am content with whatever order I am placed in. Mormont snickered, sipping ale. Even a builder. I must say, I am quite eager to see you a builder. Benjen stared at him. He always expected Jeor Mormont to be a more stern man who did not laugh once every few minutes. Stammering farewell, Benjen hurried out, feeling like an idiot. He made his way to the Lord Commander's tower as more black brothers headed to the common hall for a spot of breakfast. He quickly climbed up the tower steps and knocked on the slightly ajar oaken door. Come in. Benjen entered. Lord Commander Corgyle he greeted. Jeor Mormont said you wish to see me. The old Lord Commander glanced up from his growing mountain of papers in front of him. Benjen Stark he acknowledged with a slow nod. Please, have a seat. How is your brother? He is well, said Benjen cautiously. Why were both Jeor Mormont and Lord Commander Corgyle interested in Ned's well-being? Lord Commander Corgyle, please forgive me for my bluntness, but I doubt you summoned me here just to discuss Lord Eddard Stark. True. From what I heard, you are one of the most eager recruits the Night's Watch received in years. A Stark is always manning the wall. Is that why you enjoy freezing your balls off every night? Benjen raised an eyebrow at the Lord Commander's words. I enjoy the view, Lord Commander, he said stiffly, and a chilly breeze does not bother me, even at night. In fact, I am eager to face the snowstorms of winter. Corgyle snorted with laughter. Ha! We shall see when it is winter again, now won't we? Anyway, that is not the point. He was stern again. I saw you train in the training yard with the other recruits yesterday. You fight well, Stark. Quite well indeed. Did Lord Stark teach you? No, Lord Commander. I learned from Winterfell's master-at-arms. Sometimes my late father would instruct me, as would my brother Brandon. During Robert's War, I was the Stark at Winterfell and I practiced every day with any man willing to spar with me. He paused. Corgyle nodded and motioned for him to continue, a look of interest appearing on his face. I also sparred with Lyanna. That is all, said Benjen uncomfortably. I see. Corgyle peeled a boiled egg on his plate. I think your skills are wasted patrolling the wall rather than training your fellow recruits. The Night's Watch is currently lacking a master-at-arms. Perhaps you will consent to fill that office for a short time. Mayhaps a day or two. Why me, Lord Commander? Surely there are more capable and experienced soldiers willing to instruct a band of recruits. Do you know any that are not too valuable to waste? To waste, Lord Commander. Sir Denys Mallister is one of our best men, but he is better suited to the office of Commander of the Shadow Tower than Master-at-Arms. Call me a weary old man, but I rather appoint men I know than strangers. After Robert Baratheon was crowned king, a number of knights were sent here as punishment for siding with the dragons. Surely they are all seasoned warriors and commanders who are more than capable of training recruits. However, I rather keep an eye on them for the time being than give them positions. I am only a recruit, I have not even said my vows. Lord Commander, what can possibly qualify me as acting Master-at-Arms rather than any man already sworn in as a man of the Night's Watch? The Lord Commander looked at him and said simply. You are a Stark. Benjen frowned. If that is all, Lord Commander, I think I will go. I'm afraid I must decline your request. You think I want you as acting Master-at-Arms due to your house name? He stared at Benjen incredulously. You fool. I am only fulfilling an order. Catching sight of his confused expression, Corgyle added, you know your letters, yes. He pushed a folded piece of parchment towards him. Cautiously, Benjen reached for it and read. Swearin Stark as a sworn brother and acting Master-at-Arms. If you do, more able men will be sent to the wall. Benjen looked back at the waiting Lord Commander Corgyle. You cannot give me my vows yet, he said, alarmed. I have been here for less than a month and my training has not finished yet. This is all wrong. What will the other recruits say, he continued, panicking slightly. The other Black brothers will object to it surely. Lord Commander, you cannot swear me into the Night's Watch and make me the acting Master-at-Arms now. I thought you want to be a man of the Night's Watch. Well yes, but we need more men, Stark. Corgal wearily sighed and consumed his second boiled egg. What else can I do? This person, promised men able men. It arrived last night and I showed it to Mormont. He advised me to agree to it as the need for more men is quite dire already. Every second day, I send patrols east towards Eastwatch by the sea and west towards the Shadow Tower every second day. Imagine how efficient and easier it would be if there are more men of the Night's Watch to cover patrol between the castles. Who knows? Perhaps in 5 years, there will be enough men to hold and patrol even the Night Fort. Benjen arched an eyebrow. Forgive me Lord Commander, but I cannot see how a few dozen more men will revive the Night Fort in 5 years. Stark, a few dozen more men will be a large difference to the Night's Watch, subduing wildlings will be simpler with more men. I see. Will you say your vows? Benjen shook his head. It is not right. It is not honorable. I chose to be a man of the Night's Watch, not to ascend in the ranks by my name or orders and bribes written by shadows. However, as a favor to you, Lord Commander, I will help instruct the other recruits as much as I can. Corgal sighed again gloomily and nodded. You are an honorable one, are you not? I always thought Mormont was a man of honor, but after speaking to you in person, I will speak bluntly, Stark. I liked you more when you were the excited lad shooting volleys of questions at me on paper. Benjen chuckled. You did not sound so desperate for men in the letters you sent me. Will that be all, Lord Commander? Corgal nodded. There should be a couple of recruits heading to the training yard as we speak. Perhaps you should go and instruct them. There is one rather young recruit who is quite, ill. He is only a young boy, but his carer assured me he will be a sworn brother when he is ready. A young boy. Benjen could not hide his surprise. A Dane of High Hermitage. A simpleton by the sounds of it. Honestly, it would be a blessing for him to die, but we cannot be selective of the number of men we need. Maybe you can turn the Dane boy into a future sworn brother of the Night's Watch. I will try, Lord Commander. Curious, Benjen left the Lord Commander's keep and descended the stairs. As he walked to the training yard, he wondered who would possibly be bold enough to send that letter to Lord Commander Corgal. A man of the Night's Watch gets what he earns, Benjen recalled from Mormont's letters. I will earn my due, I will never be bribed. The sound of singing steel was music to his ears as he came upon the beginning of a sparring session. 2 men roughly his age laughed raucously as they clashed swords. Benjen surmised them to be the younger sons of knights or lesser lords. Their boiled leather must have costed a fortune if they were farmers or miners. Before he could approach them, he caught sight of the boy Corgal mentioned. Standing by the training yard stairs was a small boy of about 8 years of age with silver blonde hair and the distinctive purple eyes found in houses Dane, Valerian, and Targaryen. The young boy's lips tightened into an expression a cross between a pout and a scowl, his eyes narrowing. Benjen walked up to him. His complexion was too fine to be a Dane of High Hermitage. He looked almost royal. Could he be? No, Benjen dismissed. Ned said all the Targaryens except Daenerys were murdered. He would never lie, would he? Who are you? Benjen said gently. The boy lifted his head and said proudly. Viserys Targaryen III of his name, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Prince of Dragonstone, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm. One of the other men nearby snorted and guffawed. Benjen frowned. No, Lord Commander Corgal said you are a Dane of High Hermitage. Is your name's Viserys? The boy may be a simpleton, but surely he would know his own name. I am not a Dane of High Hermitage, said the boy hotly. I am the king. I am Viserys Targaryen III of his name, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Prince of Dragonstone, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm. I am your rightful king. And I'm King Robert, snickered another recruit. The boy swirled to him and shouted. Usurper! Traitor! I am the king. I will have you executed. It only caused more laughter amongst the recruits and black brothers. You are a Dane of High Hermitage, Benjen repeated, ignoring the smirks of amusement. You are Viserys Dane of High Hermitage. Who sent you here? Was it your father? An uncle? Brother? A cloaked man, the boy said grudgingly. And I am Viserys Targaryen, not Viserys Dane. My father was king but he died, I am now king. By the gods, a stronger man will break you into submission. You never saw his face? No. It was always covered. Why does it matter? What did he sound like? The boy glared at him disdainfully. I cannot remember. The journey to this horrible place was long, cold and tiring. I slept most of the way and he did all the talking. Why do you care? Why am I even here? I should be at home with my little sister. Where is she? Little sister. Benjen frowned and slowly veered the boy away from prying eyes. Who? Do you remember her name? He shook his head. Our mother never named her. Benjen pressed on. Why didn't she name her? She died. The hatred and insolence melted from his tone. My mother died giving birth to my sister. When I carried her, I sometimes called her Rolla, after our mother. Other times, I called her Alysanne. Rolla. Queen Rolla Targaryen. By the old gods and new, the boy is no simpleton and he is not mad, thought Benjen, as he listened to him. No, Viserys rattle on about some storm and his mother's death. Ned told me in his letters that there was a dangerous storm in Dragonstone when Stannis Baratheon launched an assault there at the end of the King's War. If Lord Commander Corgyle told the truth, this boy should not know all this. This boy is Viserys Targaryen. What is he doing here? The time of the dragons is over, it is now the reign of the stags. All the Targaryens should be dead or hiding in the free cities except Daenerys, of course. If the king catches wind of a Targaryen at the wall. You are unwell, Benjen lied, the guilt of telling a falsehood twisting in his stomach. You were knocked unconscious many months ago. You are Viserys Dane of High Hermitage, not Viserys Targaryen. The boy frowned. You are lying, he accused. I am not. Even a boy of 8 can tell I'm lying. You are Viserys Dane and your father has decided that as a younger son, you will be of more use here at the wall rather than at your home in Dorne. Before the boy could snarl back, he went on. Lord Commander Corgyle told me everything. After your accident, your father did not know what to do with you and sent you here. It will be in your best interest to remember who you truly are, Viserys Dane. Corgyle had asked me to help you improve your swordplay. Will you be a good boy and learn to be a noble man of the Night's Watch? Or would you rather be sent beyond the wall and, killed by wildlings? Ned groaned as Maester Lewyn placed a basket full of letters in front of him as he settled down in his solar. Another stack of letters. Ned said wearily. Please tell me these are not all from lords wishing for a more permanent alliance with my family. Once Robb had begun babbling in baby talk, a flurry of letters and gifts had arrived, some sent via ravens and others delivered by riders, not only from the north, but some from the lords of the Riverlands, the Reach, the Vale and even 2 or 3 from Dorne, most likely letters from his good brother, Lord Dane. Many of his ancestors had wedded northerners, his mother's father married a Flint and his father's mother was a Lock, yet a few married into noble houses of the Vale and more than one Stark wedded a Blackwood maiden. Father affianced Brandon to Catelyn Tully to unite the north with the south, thought Ned. Perhaps I should follow in his footsteps, a Southron bride for Robb and a northern wife for a second son if I am blessed with one. Another thought suddenly crossed his mind. What if I have a daughter? Would you prefer if I read them for you, my lord? Offered Maester Lewyn. I will be more than willing, Ned interrupted him with a shook of his head. I will read through them, he decided, reaching for letter at the top of the pile. It was stamped with the Black Bear sigil of Bear Island. Please sit, said Ned, motioning for the Maester to sit opposite him. I wish to hear your thoughts about any of these marriage offers. Lewyn nodded. As you wish, my lord. Ned opened the letter from Bear Island, uncertain what to think. Usually the Mormonts only write letters to the lords of Winterfell to warn them of potential Ironborn raids or an increase in wildling attacks. To his astonishment, Lord Jorah Mormont had written to him with a suggestion of a marriage alliance. It seems Lord Mormont desires for us to unite our houses. Ned handed the letter to the patient Maester. He proposes a betrothal between his eldest niece Daisy or any of his future daughters, and Robb. Maester Lewyn shook his head almost at once. No, my lord. A marital alliance with House Mormont will be a waste. Bear Island is lacking in valuable resources and Daisy Mormont is not a suitable consort for Lord Robb. Ned frowned a little. House Mormont is an old, proud and honorable house of the North, he pointed out, and the Mormonts are one of the principal noble families sworn to House Stark. Daisy Mormont is highborn and niece to a sworn Northern lord. It qualifies her as a possible wife to my son. To the heir of Winterfell, Lord Stark. No Lord of Winterfell had wedded a Mormont of Bear Island. No Lord of Winterfell had married a Dane of Starfall either. The Maester conceded with a slow nod. Aye, my lord. The ultimate choice is yours to make. Think about it. He placed the letter on the table a short distance away from the basket. He is right, thought Ned, picking up another letter. If Robb and Daisy Mormont are to wed, we will gain nothing. The Mormonts are already loyal to us to the bone. If Gia Mormont was still the Lord of Bear Island, I doubt he would even propose a betrothal between a Mormont and a Stark. His eyes scanned the second letter, the content was less surprising. Lord Rickard Karstark, Ned muttered, throwing the letter onto the table. It fluttered down beside Jorah Mormont's letter. His lady wife died giving birth to a daughter. Can you believe this? Lord Karstark is hinting at a betrothal between Robb and his newborn daughter with his wife not yet buried. A bold move on his part, my lord. Starks have often wedded Karstarks. My mother's uncle Artos Stark was wed to Lysara Karstark and had a set of twins. I suppose I will consider Rickard's girl as a potential wife for Robb. Both of them are still babes. I would prefer Robb to grow a little more before choosing him a bride. A wise idea, my lord. I am certain you are aware that many powerful lords like to match their infants to other infant children of potential allies. Indeed. Oh, here is a letter from Lord Royce. Another betrothal, my lord. No. Ned read the letter quickly. He had been acquainted with Lord Yohn Royce of Runestone, otherwise known as Bronze Yohn, due to his set of bronze armor which was said to be thousands of years old and inscribed with protection runes during his time as a ward of Lord Arryn, and recalled him to be a tall man with large, gnarled hands with a booming voice, a man similar to the Great Yohn. Lord Royce said there is a strong chance his third son will join the Night's Watch, Ned told Maester Lewin. Like Benjen, he almost added. He asks if I can take him on as a page, he continued, placing the letter on top of Karstark's, and even a squire if I am pleased with him. Lord Royce desires for you to foster his son. Essentially, yes. Bronze Yohn writes that his third son Waymar is a boy of 6 who should familiarize himself with the northern cold before joining the Night's Watch. He paused as he remembered his own experience of winter in the Vale. It was rather cold, not as chilly as winter in Winterfell though. Fostering Yohn Royce's son is ideal for both Yohn and I, he admitted. Waymar Royce will grow accustomed to the cold of the north, and when Robb is no longer a babe, he may find a friend and possibly an elder brother in Waymar. What do you think of it, Maester Lewin? He looked at the silent Maester. An excellent proposal, Lewin acceded. Fostering Waymar Royce will open the doors of a prospective marriage alliance with House Royce of Runestone, a very powerful and influential house in the Vale. If you foster Lord Waymar, the time will come when Lord Royce suggests uniting his house with your own. I find it very agreeable for Winterfell. Ned nodded. As do I. After supper, I will write back to Lord Royce and you will send a raven to him once I'm done. He groaned as he saw the seal of the 2 blue towers of Free. The temerity of that man. Read it, Maester Lewin advised. Ned stared at him incredulously. The Lord of Riverrun refused his son's hand in marriage to any of Lord Free's daughters or granddaughters. Thrice. Now that old man wants my heir to wed one of his girls. Why else would he write to me? Maester Lewin arched an eyebrow and nodded at the letter. Resisting the urge to roll his eyes like a sullen child, Ned opened it. As he predicted, the old weasel wanted marriage between Robb and one of his many daughters, granddaughters or even great-granddaughters. Walder Free wants marriage, Ned informed the Maester. However, he says he will pay the bride's weight in silver for her dowry, and I have the choice of choosing a free good daughter. Generous of him, my lord. There was one resource the weaselly Lord Walder Free of the twins did not lack, an abundant supply of descendants. I will have to somehow decline, Ned said uneasily. The northern lords will revolt against me if I agree to a betrothal between Robb and a Free. Indeed, my lord. Enough betrothal proposals for this morning. I will look at more of them later today perhaps. Rob is still a babe. There is plenty of time. Mayor Stillowin nodded and stood up. I must tend to the ravens, my lord. They need to be fed meat and water. Ned nodded. I will speak to you again later. As Mayor Stillowin shuffled out the door, Ned stood up and stretched, gazing out the window. The solar was too warm for his comfort. Giving the basket of letters one last glance, Ned left for the Godswood with his Valyrian greatsword ice strapped to his back. The wooden door creaked as he opened it and walked in. 3 acres of old packed earth and close-together trees, the ancient Godswood of Winterfell had stood untouched for 10,000 years. At the center of the grove stood an ancient weirwood with a face carved into it, a heart tree poising proudly over a pool of black water. Ned sat himself down on a moss-covered stone beneath the weirwood and struck ice into the layers of humus and soil that blanketed across the Godswood floor. He stared at ice's steel blade. Dark and smoky, like a brooding stark. How many men have I cut down with it? Ned wondered. How many foes had it tasted? How many times have I wiped away the blood? Too many to count. A breeze slithered in like a snake, hissing the words of the old gods, according to the tales told by old Nan. Ned looked around serenely, recognizing the trees as if they were friends. The sentinel trees armored in grey-green needles stood stubbornly like soldiers whilst the ironwoods played the part of war veterans. Those ironwood trees were said to be as old as the realm itself. Standing beside Ned were a cluster of might oaks. He leant his back against the weirwood with bark as white as bone and leaves dark red like 1,000 blood-stained hands. He closed his eyes. Even with his eyes shut, Ned could still see the thick black trunks crowded close together with its twisted branches weaving a dense canopy overhead. The Godswood was a place of silence. No bird nested or sang on the branches of the grim trees. Ned. Ned's eyes snapped open as he heard Ashura call his name. One of the wooden doors opened and Ashura herself came in with a letter. Ned smiled at her. What are you doing here? I thought you said you wanted to spend the day with Rob in the nursery. Has he fallen asleep again? A letter from Benjen, she replied, sitting down beside him. Ashura was not one to be concerned with dirt on her dresses. Mayor Stillowin gave it to me with the suggestion that you are here in the Godswood. I have not read it yet. I thought it would be better if you read it first. Why not read it together? Ashura beamed and gave him the letter. He opened it and smiled as he read. I am glad Ben is happy, he said, missing his little brother. I approve of his choice to refuse Lord Commander Corgyle's offer to swear his vows early along with the appointment of Master-at-Arms. It is not honorable or right. What is the Lord Commander thinking? There must be something going on at the wall. I hope Ben will visit soon, said Ned longingly. He will soon enough, Ashura said confidently. Next time we see him, he will be all clad in black, a man of the Night's Watch. What does he mean by the mad and frightened little boy of Dane features? She frowned. I do not recall having a cousin joining the Night's Watch. Ned read the letter again, a sinking feeling in his stomach. Perhaps a Dane of high hermitage, he suggested. Perhaps. I will write to my brother and ask him. No. What I tell you must remain a secret, Ned said quietly. Very well. Swear it, Ashura. By the old gods and new. Ashura gave him a strange look and said sincerely. I swear by the old gods and new that what you tell me will remain a secret until my dying day. As we are in the Godswood, the old gods have heard my vow and will hold me by it. Ned nodded, satisfied. Thank you. He lowered his voice to naught louder than Lord Bolton's soft whisper. Do you remember when we first arrived at King's Landing and Robert ordered me to kill the Targaryens? You did not want to listen to it and left. That was when Robert allowed me to keep Daenerys as a ward on the condition I tell the court she died in the Black Cells from a cold or something. As for the boy Viserys, he wanted to see the body before he wedded Catelyn Tully. You were there that day when I showed Robert the body. You said nothing, for that I am grateful. He closed his eyes and sighed. I did not kill the boy, Ashura. I am not one to kill children. There is no honor in slaughtering a child. I could not sleep that night. You thought I was ill. I considered smuggling Viserys out of King's Landing, but I knew it would not work. Thankfully on the next day, The eunuch Varys sought me out. It was he who offered to smuggle Viserys away to a place of safety. It was he who provided the body I showed Robert. I don't know how he managed to find a body of the same build and coloring as Viserys Targaryen, but it was done. I had no idea where Varys took the Targaryen boy, up to now. When Ben mentioned the Mad Dane boy at the wall, all I could think of is Viserys Targaryen. Varys had sent him to the wall. Daenerys is protected by the bastard name we gave her as well as Winterfell's walls. Viserys is not. I have no idea what game Varys is playing, but he assured me his actions were for the good of the realm. The wall though. I would think Braavos would be a safer haven for a Targaryen. If Robert catches even the tiniest of whims of this, I fear it would not only be Viserys Targaryen's head on a spike. Daenerys will be killed, as will I for committing treason. Ashura was silent for a moment. Viserys Targaryen is no infant. Ned nodded gravely. He is a boy who was born a prince. Being sent to be a future man of the Night's Watch, that is not kind for him. No wonder the poor boy is confused. I hope Benjen can somehow tame him. How? I don't know. I hope Varys knows what he has done in sending one of the last Targaryens to the wall. Do not worry about Viserys, Ned. We already have a Targaryen to protect, it is enough for us. If Benjen already guessed the boy is Viserys, he will try his best to protect him from harm. Of course. I hope Benjen will know what to do. Ashura folded the letter. When I was in the nursery earlier today, Jon toddled towards me and called me Mama. Ned stared at her, astonished. Jon called you his mother. That was unusual. Jon had said his first word a few months ago, surprisingly it was the NY rather than Dada or Mama or any other standard first word for a baby, but liked to remain quiet rather than talk. How can I tell him I am not his mother? Ashura asked with despair. When the day comes, I will have to tell him. When the day comes. Ned echoed. Ned. Jon is your son. What do I tell him? He is not my son. Ned sighed. The time had come to reveal another secret to his wife. Are you willing to swear another vow of secrecy? He said resignedly. Ashura frowned. Another secret. Exactly how many secrets have you been keeping from me, Ned? This is the last one, Ned promised. I hope. Very well, sighed Ashura. I swear by the old gods and knew that what you tell me will remain a secret until my dying day. As we are in the Godswood, the old gods have heard my vow and will hold me by it. I am not Jon's father. The words tumbled from Ned's mouth as if on their own accord. He looked guiltily at Ashura as her frown deepened. Jon is your natural son, said Ashura flatly. Of course you are his father. You told me that when I first saw him in his cradle. No, I lied. I promised Lyanna to keep Jon safe. You lied. Ned nodded, biting his lip. If everyone knows who Jon Snow's parents really are, he would be as dead as Elya's children. When I went to the Tower of Joy with 6 of my companions to fight against your brother and his sworn brothers, little did I know my sister was already dying, of childbed fever. Rhaegar Targaryen had impregnated her. Ashura's eyes widened. Jon. Ned nodded, his eyes filled with misery and sadness. Jon is Lyanna and Rhaegar's son. He is half Stark and half Targaryen. Robert would have killed him if he found out. To him, Jon would be the product of rape and a threat. If I did not claim Jon as mine bastard, I would have sentenced Lyanna's son to death for having Targaryen blood. Ashura, do you now understand why I allowed people to think I have sullied mine own honor and sired a bastard? Robert found it quite amusing, he laughed for days when he found out. All I could think of was Lyanna when I looked at Jon. I had hoped to mourn and spend time with Jon in Winterfell after the war, but then the king ordered us to wed. When we both arrived here and I showed you Jon, it was the first time I saw him since I sent him here from Dorne that day Lyanna died. You are his uncle. Only Howland Reed knew the truth. One day I will tell Benjen. He also deserves to know. He took a deep breath and looked at Ashura. Knowing this, does your opinion about Jon change? Ashura squeezed his hand. Not really. Ned's eyebrows rose. You will always be a fatherly figure to him, she pointed out. Let John grow up thinking you are his father. It will be the safest option for him. I will treat him kindly, but it will not be correct if he calls me his mother. One day when the Targaryens are no longer viewed with suspicion and hatred or hunted down like deer, you will tell him the truth. The whole truth. Robert will never stop hating the Targaryens. Who said it will be during Robert's reign? When will it ever be safe for a Targaryen to return here without the fear of being killed? Robert will tell his sons to hate the Targaryens and they will give their own children reasons to despise the Targaryens too. His wife quietened. John will have to know one day. Sensing his yearning to cease the conversation about John, she changed the subject. I saw a tiny spiked mace in the collection of gifts for Robb last night. Who would think that a safe, appropriate present for a child? Ned chuckled. Mage Mormont. I will give the letter to you later, but in it she said something about having a collection of spiked maces as a child and decided to relinquish one to Robb. That is kind of her. I cannot picture our son running around Winterfell with a mace in hand. With a sword, yes. A mace. Ashura laughed. It will be good for him to learn how to wield other weapons apart from a sword. In Dorne, boys are encouraged to brandish spears before the sword. Arthur was always different. She grew wistful. While our eldest brother learned how to throw spears with the other young lords, Arthur wanted nothing more than to be the best at swordplay. He was soon considered worthy enough to be the sword of the morning and to wield Dorne. Our son will be a fine swordsman when he grows up. Why don't you go and check on the children? I will go and inform Gage that we will dine in my solar tonight, just the two of us. Underscore 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 underscore. Ned could not sleep that night. For hours, he tossed and turned, careful not to wake Ashura. A little past midnight, he lit a candle and slipped from his rooms and into the nursery. All three children slept peacefully in their cribs, a small fire crackling quietly in the hearth. Ned smiled at them and sat on a chair, watching them sleep silently. Two of you have Targaryen blood, he thought. Both of you are here protected by your bastard names. One day, you will learn the truth. I hope that day will not come for many years. As he stood up to return to his own bedchamber, a stuffed animal caught his eye. It was placed on top of the pile of gifts he and Ashura had deemed safe for Robb to play with. Ned examined it closely, careful not to set it aflame with his short candle. His heart thudded as he saw it. It was a stuffed red dragon with onyx-studded eyes. Sweat glistened like jewels on Catelyn's forehead as she screamed in agony. At her side, the midwife soothed her with encouraging words and placed a cool, wet linen cloth on her forehead. Terrified thoughts swarmed in her mind. My mother died birthing a child. Will I too? She howled as more pain rippled through her again. It was 100 times more excruciating than her moon blood pains. She breathed deeply, the Grand Maester's mutterings a faint buzz. Where's Robert? Catelyn asked before gasping as her contractions became more frequent. Where is my husband? It is said that the loving and devoted of husbands wait outside the birthing chamber. Is Robert waiting for me? His Grace is out, hunting, said Grand Maester Pycelle, clearing his throat. I am led to believe that hunting clears his Grace's mind. Your Grace, the king loves you and cannot bear thinking of you in pain, hence he goes hunting. Hunting. Come now, Your Grace, urged the elder of the three midwives there. The royal baby is on its way. You need to push. Underscore 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 underscore. After what seemed like a journey through the seven hells and back, Catelyn finally heard the cry of a newborn baby. She remembered an infant's first cry well. When she was 4, she heard Edmure's lusty cry. When she was 6, she listened to the faint whimper of her feeble, unnamed baby brother before he followed their exhausted mother. Lady Minissa went to the grave, or to the river, according to the Tully funeral customs. It is a girl, a midwife said happily. Your Grace. You have a little princess. Oh, she will be a beautiful rose one day. Groggily, Caitlin squinted at the bawling babe in the midwife's arms. My daughter, she breathed, mesmerized. She is all well. Bonny. Robust. Grand Maester Pycelle nodded, managing a small smile. The princess's cry is strong. She is a healthy babe, your grace. Find the king. Caitlin ordered, eager to hold her child. Tell him he is now the father of a princess. He will surely wish to know before the court. Her joy melted as she recalled her mother's death. Lady Minissa lingered for a few hours before dying. I must stay alive, Caitlin vowed, for the sake of my husband, the realm, and now my daughter. It didn't take long for Pycelle to find the king. Just as Caitlin began settling down, rocking the baby in her arms, the doors flung open and Robert strode in, his hunting horn dangling from his thick leather belt. He left a trail of muddy footprints and smelled of blood and sweat, but there was a broad grin shining like the sun on his ruddy face. Cat, he roared affectionately, swooping down and kissing her on the lips as Sebaristan, Uncle Brindon and Stannis entered, the former two drenched from head to toe with sweat, their snowy white cloaks now painted with a mix of dirt and blood. Startled by Robert's loud voice, the baby wailed. A strong stag that won, chuckled Robert. We have a daughter, said Caitlin, smiling at him. Are you pleased? Of course. A daughter first, sons will come later, eh? He looked fondly at the infant, who stared back with beautiful blue eyes and tear-stained cheeks. Even if we have one son and a dozen daughters, I will love our girls as much as I will love our son. Are you well? I feel well, I suppose. Pycelle. Robert turned to the Grand Maester. Is Cat in blooming health as she was before she gave birth? Grand Maester Pycelle nodded, stroking his long beard. Aye, your grace. The Queen has recovered from her ordeal quite quickly. However, there is always the risk of an infection. Robert frowned. Infection, eh? Your grace, it will be wiser if the Queen remains in bed for another day or two in case symptoms of childbed illness occurs. Very well. I hope Cat will not spend too long in bed. As the Queen and mother of the little princess, it will be her duty to attend the festivities and tourneys that have already been planned. Perhaps a day, your grace. Robert brightened. Excellent. You have done well, Pycelle. Bringing a little princess into the world. Go and rest, Grand Maester. I expect to see you back in the council room when the next small council meeting is held. We don't want you falling asleep now, eh? Thank you, your grace. The old man shuffled out the door. Caitlin bit back a cry as Robert took their daughter from her arms. He rocked her gently. She has my hair and your eyes, Cat. Our own daughter. Can we name her Minissa? Lord Hoster had once informed Caitlin, Lysa and Edmure, though mostly to Caitlin and Lysa, that one Tully tradition was to name one's child after one's father or mother. It was a custom used from time to time throughout the generations of Tullys of Riverrun, one sadly neglected by Caitlin's own grandfather. I was thinking of naming our little girl Cassina, said Caitlin quietly. Family, duty, honor. Always honor your lord husband's family before your own. After your mother, Caitlin continued. What do you think, my lord? Princess Cassina Baratheon. No doubt she will have plenty more children, some of them daughters. There will always be another chance to name one of her future daughters after her own mother. A fine name, Robert agreed, his eyes glazed in deep thought. What is it? Caitlin sensed something amiss. Have I said something wrong, Robert? You do not want our daughter named in honor of your mother. Nothing of the sort, her husband assured her. There are a good many fine names for a Baratheon princess. Argella Baratheon, Jocelyn Baratheon, Eleni Baratheon, Cassina Baratheon, all strong names for a strong daughter of the House Baratheon. However, I thought of another name for our girl. What is it, Robert? Lyanna. Caitlin stared at him, astounded. Is he japing? He must be japing. Apparently Stannis thought so too. A terrible jest, your grace, Stannis commented. Lyanna is a northern name, not suitable for a daughter of our house. Peace between the noble houses of the Seven Kingdoms is almost secure, and you wish to renew old grudges by naming your daughter after the Stark lady who was partially responsible for starting that damned war. A very poor jest. Your Grace. Robert reddened and growled. It is no jest, Stannis. Frankly, I am surprised you know what a jape even is. I never heard you fucking say one nor laugh at one. Seven hells. You're still as grim as a fucking statue. I am not japing. I will name my daughter after the one I loved. The one I started a fucking war for. My daughter will be called Lyanna, and the next person who dares to oppose it will find themselves a head short. He glared around menacingly. Catelyn lowered her gaze, humiliated. After all this time, Robert Baratheon is still infatuated with Lyanna Stark, and she is dead. Stannis stared at Robert emotionlessly. I hope Lord Tully does not hear about this, he said stiffly. He will not be pleased to know you are still in love with the Stark girl now you are husband to his daughter. Imprison me if you must, have me executed if you so desire. You know I speak true. He bowed ungracefully at Robert and Catelyn and marched out. Please do not fight with Stannis, Catelyn pleaded on impulse. We will call our daughter Lyanna, after Lyanna Stark. Lord Stark will be delighted. Robert, I beg you, don't argue with Stannis. I don't see why you should defend him. Robert snorted derisively. Stannis certainly does not deserve your support. He is still your brother. So be it. I will summon him after supper and tell him we expect him to attend the tourney in honor of Lyanna's birth. If he refuses, I will banish him to that god-forsaken island of Dragonstone. Catelyn nodded. Thank you, Robert. Robert gave her a strange look. It should be Stannis thanking me, not you, he said gruffly. Rest. You need your strength. I will take Lyanna to the nursery and see to it she is comfortable. Catelyn nodded again, suddenly feeling drained of energy. Thank you, she whispered. Closing her eyes, she instantly fell asleep. Underscore 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 underscore. Jon fears I am too weak to give birth in a stifling place like here, Lysa said miserably. He will send me to the Eyrie in a week. Oh, why can't I stay here with you, Cat? I hate the Eyrie. The Eyrie is a lovely place, said Catelyn soothingly, resting her head against two plump pillows as she smiled at her pouting sister. Your future son will be the next Lord of the Eyrie, where better for him to be born. Lord Stark wanted nothing more than his heir to be born in Winterfell. It will be safer for you in the Eyrie, Lysa. You will be well protected there. I am well protected here. I have Jon, you, father, Uncle Brynden. Catelyn shook her head indulgently. Uncle Bryndon's first and chief obligation was to guard the king, his second was to protect her. If Uncle Brynden was not family, ensuring Lysa's safety would not be on his priority list at all. You will be safer in the Eyrie, she said gently. Your last two pregnancies have not ended well, and Lord Arryn is only concerned for your health. He only fears I will not bear him a son. Lysa's voice became shrilly, far shriller than before. Lysa, he is your husband and it is his duty to care for you. You will love it in the Eyrie. All his bannermen and loyal supporters will keep you from harm. They wish to see their Lady of the Eyrie too. I won't be with you. I will be alone. We highborn daughters all have to bear the burden of leaving our home, our parents, our sisters and brothers. You need to grow up, Lysa. You have responsibilities now. I will visit, Catelyn promised, and a month or two after you give birth, you will return to King's Landing with your baby. Robert will be more than happy to allow his Lord Hand's son to stay in the royal nursery. Besides, Lyanna will need companions when she grows up. Who better than her cousin? What if I give birth to a girl? Lord Arryn will love her as he would any son. Lysa nodded, unconvinced. Lyanna will be beautiful, she said, smiling at the sleeping baby in an old cradle constructed from lacquer blackwood etched with carvings of prancing stags. Covering baby Lyanna were yellow blankets. Robert had more than ensured she be surrounded by Baratheon colors. At times, she was even swaddled in a gold-spun mantle. It had only been 2 days yet it was clear Lyanna was already the apple of Robert's eye. She will twist him around her little finger, laughed Catelyn. She will twist him around her little finger, echoed Lysa, her expression one of nostalgia. Little finger, pet her. Caitlin looked at her sharply. What did you say? Lysa giggled and said dreamily. Petter Baelish. Do you remember when we called him Little Finger? Edmure thought of it first. Petter was always so clever and so helpful and kind. Caitlin frowned. Father sent him home, she reminded Lysa. Father was too ashamed at the prospect of his ward losing a duel with Ricard Stark's heir. I will anger father if I call Petter to court. You are the queen. Lysa pouted. King Robert will agree to anything. Petter is our old friend. Do you not miss him? It will be inappropriate for the queen to be seen with an old friend. Of course I miss him, said Caitlin cautiously. I don't think it is proper for a lady of my position to invite a childhood male friend to court. Rumors will spread and the lords and ladies of the court will talk. I know you miss Petter, but I cannot invite him to court. You can always summon him to see you in the Eyrie, his house is of the Vale, is it not? Lysa nodded, brightening up considerably. I will go and see to the packing at once, she said, embracing Caitlin and kissing her on the cheek. Oh. The sooner I leave for the Eyrie, the sooner I can see Petter again. Oh Cat, I was wrong to have thought I would be alone in the Eyrie. How silly of me. I will have Petter there by my side. I will stay here for Lionel's name day celebrations of course, but I will ask John if I could leave for the Eyrie earlier. She clapped her hands with joy and almost ran out the nursery, delight written all over her fair face. Caitlin sighed and ran her fingers through her thick auburn hair. I have failed in my duty as a sister and a Tully, she thought sadly. I should have made her see the truth of the world, life is not a sweet song sung by bards. If only I'd taught her to put the importance of family, duty and honor before her own desires. She smiled as baby Lionel moved her lips in her sleep. Caitlin could watch her daughter sleep all day. I should prepare myself, she decided, standing up and giving Lionel one final smile. The Starks will be arriving at any time now. I hope they will stay here a few more weeks after the celebrations. She had enjoyed her conversations with Ashura. Reading Ashura Stark's letters were not exactly the same as speaking to her in person. Closing the oaken door quietly behind her, she walked gracefully to her own chambers, nodding as passing lords and ladies murmured, "Your Grace." Waiting for her in front of a large, weirwood-framed floor-length mirror, were two of her half-a-dozen handmaids, Lady Aeleri and Lady Blackwood. Caitlin's father had warned her of the dangers of befriending a Tyrell, even one by marriage, and on more than one occasion, offered to introduce her to a number of high-born ladies from the Riverlands. "I rather you befriend a bloody free than a prickly rose of the Reach," her father had grumbled at least thrice. Caitlin had not bothered to remind him that it was he who betrothed Edmure to Lady Layla Hightower, who was Aeleri's younger sister. "Your Grace." The handmaids and noble ladies curtsied as Caitlin entered her rooms. Caitlin dipped her head and smiled. "This is a surprise," she commented to Lady Aeleri and Lady Blackwood. "Should you not be in your own chambers, being prepared to greet the arriving parties? My husband has decided for us to meet Lord and Lady Stark at the evening feast tonight, Your Grace," explained Aeleri. "I have enough time to aid you dress before mine own handmaids help me look presentable. And I must help Your Grace dress before I am to look respectable enough to meet Lord and Lady Stark with my husband," added Lady Blackwood. "How many times must I remind you to call me Caitlin?" Despite her tone of exasperation, Caitlin smiled at her close companions. She turned and addressed her handmaids. "Fetch my new gown if you will. I think now will be a good time to wear it." The handmaids obeyed, leaving and returning shortly, the former carefully carrying a beautiful gown of silk and the latter clutching a pair of soft black doeskin slippers. Within minutes, Caitlin had donned the new gown and comfortable slippers. As Lady Aeleri and Lady Blackwood bickered over which doll suited Caitlin more, Caitlin stared at herself in the mirror. The gown was a little too low-cut than she was accustomed to, but it fitted her well and was comfortable. Like the majority of her gowns, it was designed in the fashion of a dress from the Riverlands. However, it was black and gold, House Baratheon colors. Black samite flowed from her shoulders down to her waist, forming a V-cut and revealing a triangle of golden satin over her chest. The skirts were long, the black samite slashed from the silver belt, illuminating more golden satin. Swirls of gold were also sewn over the black samite that bordered the triangle of gold on her chest, more swirls glittering on her outer skirt. Caitlin smiled as she slowly turned to her right. The seamstresses had designed the sleeves longer than her usual ones, and she liked it. Perhaps it is time for a change after all, she thought, Lady Blackwood placing a golden pendant around her slim neck. She sat down in front of her vanity as the maids reached for combs, jewels, ribbons and other hair accessories. If Caitlin was in Riverrun, she would have left her hair out cascading down her back. As she was in the capital, she could not go around with her hair hastily brushed. Caitlin's hair braided and coiled, Lady Ailary had the honor of placing a silver diadem encrusted with sparkling onyxes on top of Caitlin's head. "You look beautiful," said Lady Blackwood approvingly. "Lord Stark's heart will melt like snow in summer when he sees you." "Lord Stark is a married man," Caitlin reminded him. "His heart should melt like snow in summer when he sees his wife, not me." "Very true, Your Grace," agreed Lady Ailary. However, Lady Blackwood was quite right. "You look splendid, Your Grace." Caitlin laughed. "You will look divine too," she said knowingly. Lady Ailary Hightower always dressed magnificently on significant occasions, well, on any ordinary occasion too. "I cannot look finer than you, my queen." "Your Grace." The door opened and Uncle Brynden peeked in. "Lady Ailary, Lady Blackwood." He nodded politely at the two ladies present. "The Starks have arrived," he informed Caitlin. "Lord Arryn is escorting them to the Great Hall as we speak." "Are you ready, Your Grace?" Caitlin nodded. "Yes, Uncle." Farewelling her two companions, she took her uncle's arm and walked with him to the Great Hall, her head held high. Her neck ached, but she was determined not to look weak. "You are the queen," she thought to herself. "You must now play the part of queen." Robert and Stannis were already in the Great Hall, the former sitting uncomfortably on the Iron Throne and the latter standing rigidly, tight-lipped and scowling like the ugly gargoyle statue in the garden. Caitlin suspected Robert hated that particular statue and planned to ship it to Dragonstone one day. She would not miss it much, if not at all. "Your Grace." Stannis dipped his head almost mechanically once he caught a glimpse of Caitlin. "I am delighted you have decided to wear the colors of our house, Your Grace," he added, nodding approvingly at her gown. "After all, it is only fitting for the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms to wear the colors of the royal house rather than those of her father's house." Caitlin smiled. She had decided to take his words as a compliment. The iron and oaken doors swung open and the herald announced, "Eddard of the House Stark, Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North, and his lady wife, Lady Ashera Stark." Caitlin's smile broadened as the solemn Lord Stark and the grinning Ashera entered, both still in their stained traveling attire. "Your Graces," they said in unison as they knelt. "Ned." "Ashera." "Get up," ordered Robert, lumbering down the steps of the dais towards them. "No more bowing and bloody kneeling. I have enough of that here as it is." He hugged Lord Stark and then Ashera. "You finally arrived, Ned," Robert said to Lord Stark. "I need a man like you in my court again. Day and night, all I hear is Stannis's constant whining and flattery from lickspittles like that blasted fat flower of Highgarden." Caitlin laughed lightly alongside Eddard Stark and Ashera. When Robert began speaking again, Caitlin could not help but beam, knowing full well what Robert was implying. "We have been close friends since we were fostered at the Eyrie," Robert was saying. "I've often considered you my brother. We would have been brothers bound by blood if Lyanna was still alive. It is still not too late. You have an infant son. I have a newborn daughter. Once of age, your Rob and my Lyanna will wed. We will finally join our houses as we once would have done." Butterflies fluttered in Benjen's stomach as he forced himself to swallow a bit of porridge and chew a rash of bacon. Usually he enjoyed eating Hobbs porridge. It reminded him of breakfast at Winterfell, but that day, it tasted like mush as opposed to its usual oaty flavor. Benjen drained his cup of ale in one gulp. It did not steady his nerves as he hoped. Nervous. Sir Jaime Riker sat down opposite him with a bowl of porridge and a plate stacked with slices of bread and bacon. Another night, Sir Alliser Thorne sat beside him carrying 2 mugs of ale. Sir Jaime pushed the plate of bread and bacon towards Sir Alliser and began spooning blobs of porridge into his mouth. How could a man have such an appetite at a time like this? Benjen had never felt more nervous. After months of vigorous training, hunting, farming and other activities such as tending the horses, milking the cows, gathering firewood and helping Hob cook the meals, it was decided that Benjen was ready to swear his vows. While he trained, hunted and farmed, Benjen managed to avoid having another conversation with the Lord Commander and Viserys, Dane. After he deduced who Viserys truly was, he informed Castle Black's Maester, Aemon, that the boy was ill and it would be in the Night's Watch's best interest to segregate Viserys for the time being. Thankfully, the kind Maester agreed. Viserys will be safe with me, Maester Aemon promised. I hope I will never have to see Viserys again, thought Benjen, as he said to Sir Jaime. Should I be? Sir Alisa snorted coldly. The only reason you will be nervous is if you plan to be a craven and crawl away a minute before we swear our vows. His black eyes bore into him. Are you a craven, Stark? Benjen could not help but look back at Thorne with mild dislike. Around 37 years of age, Sir Alisa Thorne was a slim and sinewy man, dry and hard, with black hair and eyes like chips of onyx. Humorless, bitter and rather mean-spirited, at times, Sir Alisa would treat his fellow recruits and the other men with a thin smile. Like Sir Jaime, he joined the Night's Watch for supporting House Targaryen during Robert's War. I am no craven, said Benjen icily. I always wanted to be a man of the Night's Watch. I came here willingly, unlike you. He expected Thorne to give him a very chilling glare, he did not expect Thorne to mirthlessly laugh. 100 pairs of eyes swiveled towards them as Thorne's cackle bounced off the timber walls of the common hall. What makes you think I was forced to come here? Thorne said mockingly, ignoring the stares. I too came here willingly to avoid an unjust execution, as did Riker and many others. You had no choice, Benjen argued. Lord Lannister said it was either to take the Black or be executed. I was to be executed for siding with the Mad King. My house was sworn to the Crown lands. Do you think I had a choice to choose who to support? I chose to come here. If I was unwilling, I would have chosen death. At least that would be quick and swift. He stared challengingly at him as he finished drinking the rest of his warm ale. I will not concede. I find it hard to believe. Thorne shrugged. Don't believe it then. He eyed Benjen with loathing and muttered. I never liked you Starks before stalking away. Riker snorted and returned to his meal. Should he not hate Lannisters more, said Benjen curiously. Lord Lannister gave you and him the choice between taking the Black and death. Riker shrugged. If you have not noticed, Thorne prefers to keep his secrets to himself. Who knows? Perhaps your brother wounded him in a battle. Maybe Thorne was in love with Lady Ashura too and was jealous Lord Stark was chosen to wed the Lady of House Dane. Benjen choked on his porridge. Thorne. In love. I jest, said Riker hastily. A rather poor one, I may add. Oh look, our fellow recruits are heading out. Shall we go? Benjen nodded. Together, they left the common hall, crossing the weed-strewn courtyard to the September. Winterfell had no September, the only September Benjen had seen was the ruined September in Harrenhal during the Harrenhal tourney. As Benjen was of the old gods, he was far more interested in the Harrenhal godswood, which was walled over 20-acre, with the weirwood heart tree carved with a twisted mouth and flaring eyes, than a ruined old September. Entering Castle Black's September, Benjen squinted as the great crystal caught rays of the morning light as it streamed through the south-facing window and spread it in a rainbow on the altar. Benjen took his place beside Sir Jaime and watched the silent Septon Seladar swing a censer, filling the air with fragrant incense, so sickly sweet that made Benjen feel slightly nauseous. Seladar looks sober, Benjen heard a recruit behind him mutter. Last time I saw him, he stank of wine. He was silenced when the high officers arrived. First was the ancient Maester Aemon, who shuffled in, leaning on the steward Clydas. Bald, wrinkled, shrunken and blind, Aemon's mind was as sharp as his hearing, and he carried much valued counsel. Lord Commander Corgyle, resplendent in a black wool doublet, followed, looking less weary than the last time Benjen had spotted him from the distance. Old Sir Denys Mallister even ventured down from the Shadow Tower, his black cloak clasped by House Mallister's silver eagle, and behind him came the senior members of the three orders of the Night's Watch, the Rangers, the Stewards and the Builders. Lord Commander Corgyle stood before the altar and cleared his throat. You came to us as outlaws, he began, poachers, rapers, debtors, killers, and thieves. You came to us children. You came to us alone, in chains, with neither friends nor honor. You came to us rich, and you came to us poor. Some of you bear the names of proud houses. Others have only bastards' names, or no names at all. It makes no matter. All that is past now. On the wall, we are all one house. At evenfall, as the sun sets and we face the gathering night, you shall take your vows. From that moment, you will be a sworn brother of the Night's Watch. Your crimes will be washed away, your debts forgiven. So too you must wash away your former loyalties, put aside your grudges, forget old wrongs and loves alike. Here you begin anew. A man of the Night's Watch lives his life for the realm. Not for a king, nor a lord, nor the honor of this house or that house, neither for gold nor glory nor a woman's love, but for the realm, and all the people in it. A man of the Night's Watch takes no wife and fathers no sons. Our wife is duty. Our mistress is honor, and you are the only sons we shall ever know. You've learned the words of the vow. Think carefully before you say them, for once you've taken the black, there's no turning back. The penalty for desertion is death. Corgyle paused and looked around. A lump formed in Benjen's throat. I always wanted to man the wall, he thought. I will not run away. Are there any among you who wish to leave our company? Corgyle asked. If so, go now, and no one will think less of you. They might. No one moved. Well and good, said Corgyle, almost sighing with relief. You may take your vows here at evenfall, before Septon Seladar and the first of your order. Do any of you keep to the old gods? Benjen stood. I do, my lord. As do I, my lord, added a voice behind him. Benjen could not resist turning around. His blue eyes fell upon the other recruit and recognized his brooch to be a silver pinecone, the pinecone of Clan Liddle. Lord Commander Corgyle nodded. Castle Black has no godswood, he told them bluntly. However, you will find a grove of weirwoods half a league from the haunted forest beyond the wall. He looked back at all the recruits as Benjen and Liddle sat back down. The first steward handed him a scroll of paper. We have placed each of you in an order, as befits our need and your own strengths and skills, said Corgyle, unrolling it. He glanced at it and began to read. Bowen, to the stewards. Wallace, to the stewards. Chet, to the stewards. Keggs, to the builders. Duncan, to the rangers. Sir Alisa, to the rangers. Sir Jemmy, to the rangers. Benjen, to the rangers. He rolled up the paper. Your firsts will instruct you in your duties. May all the gods preserve you, brothers. Underscore 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 underscore. Late in the afternoon, Benjen set out to the forest with the first ranger, the other rangers and Duncan Liddle, who insisted for them to call him Big Liddle. As they journeyed from Castle Black to the Grove of Weirwoods, Big Liddle chatted with Benjen, telling him his reasons for joining the Night's Watch. Benjen had been too nervous to dwell on why the heir of Clan Liddle decided to relinquish his rights to his father's lordship and be a black brother. By the time they reached the Grove of White Trees, the sun was sinking fast below the trees. Benjen drew his breath sharply as they arrived at a clearing. He saw the 9 weirwood trees sit in a rough circle. He had never seen so many white trees growing together before. Lyanna would convince me to ride with her in the Wolf's Wood, he remembered. There are never this many weirwood trees in the Wolf's Wood. 2 or 3 grouped together perhaps, but never 9. Benjen dismounted his horse and tied the reins to an ironwood tree before he walked into the circle of weirwoods. The Grove of Weirwood Trees is a sacred place, the first ranger had told them before they had exited through the passage doors at Castle Black. Upon arrival, we will tether our horses. We will not besmirch the sacredness of the Weirwood Grove with our horses. The small party walked across the forest floor littered with old fallen leaves, the first ranger stopping in front of the third weirwood tree. Benjen and Big Liddle knelt, and as the last light faded in the west to give way to the vast dark canvas of the night, they said their words together. Hear my words, and bear witness to my vow, Benjen and Duncan Liddle recited, breaking the silence in the soundless wood. Night gathers, and now my watch begins. It shall not end until my death. I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. I shall wear no crowns and win no glory. I shall live and die at my post. I am the sword in the darkness. I am the watcher on the walls. I am the fire that burns against the cold, the light that brings the dawn, the horn that wakes the sleepers, the shield that guards the realms of men. I pledge my life and honor to the Night's Watch, for this night and all the nights to come. You knelt as boys, the first ranger said a minute later. Rise now as men of the Night's Watch. Benjen rose and found himself surrounded by smiling rangers, all patting him on the shoulder and murmuring words of congratulations. You have a bright future in front of you, grunted Mormont, nodding at him. Who knows? Maybe in 10 years or so, it will be you as the first ranger. He chuckled and went off to congratulate Big Little. Finally, thought Benjen. I am a man of the Night's Watch. Now my watch begins. Underscore 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 underscore. Excitement shivered through Benjen's spine as the walls of Winterfell came into view. He urged his horse to trot faster. He wanted nothing more than to see Ned and Ashura. You are not here as a brother, good brother or uncle, Benjen reminded himself as Yoren rode up to him. You are here as a man of the Night's Watch and Lord Commander Corgyle's chosen delegate. You are here to request more men for the war. Why did old Corgyle send you here, said Yoren bluntly. Most brothers from noble houses don't return home. Benjen shrugged. I don't know any more about this than you do. Last week, I was summoned to the Commander's Keep and Corgyle told me I was to travel to Winterfell with you and request more men. I think it is a type of practice for my first ranging or something. Unorthodox, but still. Do not fear, I won't run off and be a deserter. If I do, you will have to escort me back to Castle Black in chains where Corgyle will have me executed. Yoren snorted. I, or Lord Stark will execute you himself. Benjen shuddered. I hope my brother will never execute me. Didn't you just return with a few more recruits? I was then sent to join you. What is Corgyle playing at? You haven't been manning the wall for over a year, yet he trusts you enough to send you to your childhood home. Yoren spat. It all sounds shifty to me. It was the Lord Commander's orders. No matter how strange it seems to be, we will obey his command. Did you tell Lord Stark of our impending arrival? No, I thought I would just show up. Yoren chuckled. Not the brightest idea, eh? Then again, Lord Stark was your brother and writing to him may be difficult for you at the moment. I hope Lord Commander Corgyle wrote to him at least. Do you think there will still be rooms in that inn in Wintertown? There will be more rooms available than it would in winter. Lord Stark was your brother. Yoren's words echoed in Benjen's head. We bear the same house name yet we are no longer brothers. Yoren grunted. Good. What about a nice pot of hot stew? Perhaps. If we are lucky, maybe even a bit of meat. Yoren nodded with appreciation. A nice hot meal for 2 passing black brothers, eh? A bit o' meat, a mug o' beer, a slice o' bread. Here. Benjen threw him an apple. If you are hungry, eat this. Corgyle said that while I stay in Winterfell to persuade Lord Stark for more men, you are to go to Torrhen's Square. Hopefully by the time you return, we will both be ready to leave for the war with a batch of recruits. Is there a reason why Corgyle is so determined, or more to the point, obsessed with the need for more men? You must have went this path so many times already. Lord Commander's orders. Since I injured my shoulder, I could not fight as well as I used to. Being a wandering crow is better than doing nothing at the war. Corgyle wants men, I find him men. So many men. The more men the better. The Night's Watch is no longer a prestigious order young boys dream to join. It's always the Kingsguard, but once it used to be full of noble men. Now, we rely on criminals. Getting a few willing volunteers is good enough for me and the Lord Commander. How many men are you aiming to gather? Yoren thought for a moment. 3. I never expect more than that. Benjen nodded. There will always be more Southron criminals to take back to the war. My bro Lord Stark and the other Northern Lords are of the old way and they prefer to execute their prisoners rather than imprison them. I'll be lucky to get my hands on 2 here. The tall Winterfell walls loomed over them as they rode towards the gates. "I will go and find Lord Stark," Benjen told Yoren. "If you are still here by nightfall, I will join you for a spot of supper." I doubt there are many open taverns and inns in Wintertown. I suppose it will be rather easy for you to find me. I'll see you tonight." Benjen spurred his tired horse through the gate as Yoren headed to the almost empty Wintertown. As he rode through the gate and courtyard, he was surprised to see Winterfell so desolate. He jumped down from his horse and led it to the stables. No sign of Hullen. "Lord Benjen." Benjen turned around and sighed as he saw Maester Lewin standing in front of the stables, a folded letter in hand. "You have returned." The Maester's brow creased with concern. "Is something amiss, my lord?" "It's just Benjen now, Maester." Benjen fed his horse a carrot and stepped out from the stables. "I have said my vows," he explained. "I am a sworn brother of the Night's Watch now." "Where is Lord Stark?" "Lord Commander Corgyle had sent me here to request more men for the war." "If you do not mind me asking, why are there so less men?" After recovering from a moment of shock, Maester Lewin replied. "Lord and Lady Stark have already left for King's Landing, my Lord Benjen. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I believe. The Queen had given birth to a daughter, Princess Lyanna Baratheon, and Lord Stark's presence was required. As his wife, Lady Stark went with him. Lord Stark had left Veon Poole and myself in charge of affairs here at Winterfell. May I be of any assistance to you, Benjen?" "How is Robb?" Benjen could not resist inquiring. "Once I could call him my nephew. Now he is the heir of Lord Stark." The Maester smiled. "The young lordling is quite well. He can crawl, babble the language of babes, play with the toys other lords gave him. Lord Robb is one healthy lordling. Will you stay the night?" "No, I will join Yoren in Wintertown for supper." "As you wish. There will always be a room ready for you here, Lord Stark's orders. Would you care for some nourishment? As you eat, we can discuss the number of men you need." Benjen went with Maester Lewin to the Great Hall. Despite dining with his sworn brothers, high officers and recruits in the common hall at Castle Black for almost a year, he would never forget Winterfell's large Great Hall. Unlike Castle Black's timbered common hall, Winterfell's Great Hall was enclosed with grey stone and exteriorly covered banners, its wide oak and iron doors opening to the castle yard, the rear exit leading to a dimly lit gallery. Inside, it could hold 8 long rows of trestle tables and seat around 500 people. Benjen smiled as he remembered the rare opportunities to sup with his entire family on the raised platform as a child. At times father would be too busy, Benjen recalled. Brandon would prefer to dine more with his friends than family, Lyanna would be always riding, and Ned hardly descended from the Eyrie. The smell of venison pie made Benjen's mouth water. As he ate, he listened to Maester Lewin's advice. "There are 1 or 2 orphaned boys in the kitchens," he said. "Their parents died of a fever, as did their farm's livestock. With Lord and Lady Stark's permission, I took them in for a few weeks and they have helped the servants and cooks. Tell them the honor of joining the Night's Watch. Tell them it is a better life for them than kitchen helpers." "Is it?" "I will." Benjen finished the last of his venison pie and stood up. "When will you send another letter to Lord Stark?" "Shortly. If I am not asking too much, can you please tell Lord Stark I am sorry I did not have the pleasure of meeting him, but I thank him for his hospitality, and I hope to see him again one day." Maester Lewin nodded. "I will add that to the letter. I trust you need no aid to the kitchens, Benjen. Underscore 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 underscore. Benjen met Yoren at the gates of Wintertown with the 2 orphaned boys on horses and bags of fresh supplies. "You would make a fine wandering crow," said Yoren, nodding at the 2 recruits as he rode up to them with 4 more young men of his own. "If you get tired of ranging, be a wandering crow." Within days, they had gathered another volunteer on the way back to Castle Black, and as they approached the abandoned village of Queenscrown, Benjen caught sight of a furred figure disappearing in the forests. "Oh. Who is that?" Yoren glanced. "A wilderling," he said dismissively. They are getting wilder and bolder each day. Soon the day will come when we must take arms against them. Mark my words, Stark. That day will come, soon. Chapter 16, Cersei I. Garbed in an elegant gown of crimson embroidered with golden lions, Cersei Lannister swirled this way and that in front of the mirror. She scowled. It should be me at the king's side, not that trout from Riverrun. Cersei never enjoyed devouring fish at suppers and feasts, too many bones and there was no joy nibbling it, unlike the juiciness and tenderness of roasted beef and other meat. More to the point, she loathed all the Tullys even before Robert's War. One of her brilliant green eyes twitched. At one stage, her father, the powerful Lord Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, Shield of Lannisport and Warden of the West, had considered wedding her off to that floppy fish Sir Edmure Tully. I will eat him alive if I am ever forced to marry him. Thankfully that silly notion left her father's head as speedily as he thought of it. What she found even more alarming was when she heard her father's plans to wed her beloved Jaime to Lysa Tully. Jaime was hers, only hers. Cersei felt anger surge through her. Why doesn't anyone understand? Jaime and I were brought to the world together, we are meant to be together, forever. The thought of having stupid Lysa as a good sister horrified her as much as the idea of Tyrion gaining favor from their father, though highly unlikely who would love a dwarf. No, she corrected herself. Her father. Even though that imp of a Lannister bore the Lannister name, she liked to pretend he was not her brother. After her mother died giving birth to that monster, Cersei used to dream she would drop him into the sea from the cliffs of Casterly Rock and her mother would be alive again. Alas, they were nothing but dreams. I am getting old, thought Cersei, frowning as her handmaid braided her tresses of long, blonde hair. 19 years, still unmarried and no future. If I was born with a cock, I would have fought in tourneys and wars for the glory and honor of House Lannister. My father would be proud of me. Her foul mood worsened as she headed from her chambers to the great hall to hear the king's announcement. No doubt it regarded his precious child. Father wanted me to be the queen. I was to be Rhaegar's queen. I was to be the mother of dragons. I could have been Robert Baratheon's queen, but Catelyn Tully beat me and stole my crown. Cersei could not resist another scowl as she remembered her father's reaction to the news of a Tully as queen consort. That Hoster Tully is a clever trout. Lord Tywin Lannister had raged. It's you who's supposed to be the queen. Oh, Tully had won this round, the next he will lose. Cersei craned her head and saw her twin standing with his sworn brothers in front of the Iron Throne. Jaime must have seen her glimpse as he winked at her. She blushed before a thought occurred to her. What if he was winking roguishly at another woman? She dismissed it at once. Jaime would never look at other ladies, he has me, and that is enough for us both. Do you see that man over there? Her father appeared at her side. Tall with bushy golden side whiskers and the most intimidating gaze, he frightened her at times. Do you see him? He repeated, his green eyes flecked with gold swiveling to a handsome man in grey and silver. He is Sir Garth Hightower. He is Lytton's second son. Lord Lytton approached me yesterday and requested your hand for him. He wants us to unite houses. His lips curved into a twisted sneer. Lytton Hightower is a fool. I offered him Tyrion for one of his daughters and he declined. Now he asks for you, and I had the pleasure of declining. You were meant to be queen, Cersei. There is still a chance. What? Cersei could not believe her ears. How, father? Catelyn Tully is the queen. There is nothing we can do about it. How pessimistic you have become, daughter. Lord Tywin lowered his voice to a hushed whisper. Catelyn Tully birthed a princess. Cersei covered her mouth to stifle a giggle. She would have given the king a good many sons, if he'd married her as he should have. What did they name their little princess? She said softly. Lord Tywin's smirk broadened. Lyanna. Cersei choked on her laughter. I doubt Catelyn Tully will be pleased. She managed to contain her giggles as the king began to speak. My lords and ladies. King Robert Baratheon announced, his booming voice echoing in the great hall. We are gathered here today to celebrate. My queen had given birth to a daughter, the Princess Lyanna Baratheon. He paused and the courtiers clapped and murmured words of congratulations. Cersei politely clapped twice. It had also been decided Princess Lyanna will wed Lord Robb Stark, the heir of Winterfell, continued the king. To Cersea's delight, a whisper of disgruntlement buzzed through court. At the corner of her eye, Cersei saw her father stare straight ahead, his lips tightening. He would have loved to have the princess a part of the family. Glancing around, Cersei spotted the fat flower of Highgarden pouting and even Stannis Baratheon grinding his teeth. Then again, Stannis Baratheon did nothing but grind his teeth. There will be a tourney in honor of my daughter's birth, the king went on, unaware of the quiet discontentment. It will begin this afternoon. Additionally, there is more to celebrate. It has come to my attention that in the future, the Iron Throne may need more gold, and where better to find it than in Casterly Rock. He nodded at Cersei and Tywin. Moreover, as a gesture of friendship between the houses of Baratheon and Lannister, we will unite our houses. How? Cersei wondered. You have already betrothed your dear, little princess and only child to the pup of Winterfell. And with the full consent and blessing from Lord Tywin Lannister, I am pleased and honored to announce the betrothal between my beloved brother Stannis Baratheon, Lord of Storm's End and Lord Protector of Dragonstone, and Lady Cersei of House Lannister. I could not help but wonder why Stannis Baratheon was grinding his teeth this morning. Jaime shook his mane of golden hair as he removed his silver helmet. Cersei wanted nothing more than to kiss him right there. He wiped away the beads of sweat from his forehead. I guess we both know why now, he said, giving her a meaningful look. I assure you I did not want it, snapped Cersei, crossing her arms. Why in the seven would I want to marry a statue like Stannis Baratheon? Jaime shrugged carelessly. To be queen. Like it or not, Stannis Baratheon is still King Robert's heir. As long as our beloved Queen Catelyn cannot bear Robert a son, Stannis is his heir. In her rage, Cersei had not considered that. Robert has a daughter, Cersei pointed out helplessly. Jaime shrugged again, wiping his hands. Complain about it to father. I have no head nor care for politics. Did you see that nightfall? Utterly hopeless. I do wonder if there will be any competition for me these days. I must say, I found the tourney of the King and Queen's wedding much more challenging than this one so far. I hope I will compete against Barristan the Bold or the Blackfish in the last tilt. That will be memorable, wouldn't it? I suppose, Cersei said, busy in her own thoughts. Her twin frowned. Are you still dwelling in a pit of misery, dear sister? Enjoy the tourney. It will be your last bit of fun before you are sent packing and then shipped off to Storm's End, where you will wed Stannis Baratheon. Cersei sighed. I'll kill him if he forces his way with me on our wedding night. She wondered if Stannis had ever fucked a woman before. At least you will return to court. I will see you again. It wouldn't be the same, would it? She leant forward and kissed Jaime on the lips. Remember all those times when you stole a kiss from me at Casterly Rock, she cooed as they broke apart. Do you remember the night when you agreed to be a knight of the Kingsguard? She smiled coyly. She did not need to touch him to know he was already deeply aroused. Her long, slim fingers caressed his fair cheeks, and when she wiped away a droplet or two of sweat, she licked it clean from her finger, gazing intently in Jaime's eyes. What about the time when we fucked near the lion's pit? Cersei whispered in his ear. You said, what did you say? It was the best fuck ever. Not now, said Jaime, his voice husky. Later. I have to ready myself for the next round. Cersei laughed softly. The next round wouldn't start for ages. Don't you want to carry my favor, sweet Jaime? She blew into his ear. Nothing more had to be said. Lord Tywin gave Cersei one look as she hurriedly joined him in the stands to watch the jousting. Thankfully Jaime did not make it messy or rip her gown this time. She fixed her hair and smiled dazzlingly at her father. I was only wishing my brother luck, she said sweetly. Her father nodded. You will sit with the royal family, more precisely, beside Lord Stannis during tonight's feast, he informed her. It was an order directly from the king himself. Lord Stannis may not care much for you, but the king said he will not stand for a woman like Stannis in his family. You are to converse with Lord Stannis, entice him and try and make him smile. I suspect King Robert will declare a wager. The first to make Stannis Baratheon laugh will find himself or herself in possession of a lordship of some kind. I do not know if our good king is serious, but for House Lannister's interests, make him laugh. Amuse him. You have been at court for quite some time. I hope you spent your time here wisely with knowledge how to interest a man like Stannis Baratheon. There should be a wager to make you laugh. What are the chances Jaime will win the joust this time? Lord Tywine shrugged. I do not care. Of course I hope Jaime wins. However, if Sir Barristan or the Blackfish happen to maim him, it will give him good reason to leave the Kingsguard and be my heir again. Cersei wanted nothing more than to glare at him. You will not take Jaime away from me, she wanted to shout. Jaime belongs to me. You already took him away from me once, was that not enough? Once Jaime is released from his Kingsguard vows, he will be wedded to a lady from a highborn and influential family and finally have heirs. I will die a content man when I see my Lannister descendants married off to suitable spouses and House Lannister's legacy secure. A pity Hoster Tully married Lysa off to old Jon Arryn. Jaime's marriage to Lysa would be quite beneficial. Cersei refrained herself from rolling her eyes. Instead, she turned to look at the jousting field. Barristan the Bold had effortlessly knocked another weasel-faced free from his equally weaselly horse. How many Freys had Sir Barristan defeated? Cersei wondered. 3. 4. The Freys breed like rabbits. I have not seen a single Free progress far, remarked her father. Not even your Aunt Jenna's son, Cleo's. Jaime knocked him from his horse after he had defeated Tyrell's good brother, one of those green apple fossoes. Have you heard? Our queen gave the Blackfish her favor. Cersei shrugged. She is his niece. Indeed. I see you had given Jaime your favor too. She smiled. Fluttering from Jaime's tawny lance was her red ribbon, a little frayed at the edges. It was the same ribbon that had weaved through her locks of golden hair the first time she consummated her love with Jaime. It took Jaime a mere second to recognize it. I will crown you my queen of love and beauty, he had promised, kissing her hand like a valiant knight. As I have no betrothed nor a wife, crowning you will not be scandalous. There is nothing wrong in a brother crowning his own sister his queen of love and beauty. I cannot wait, she had answered, smiling back at him. Wearing a crown of white roses on her brow was not what she had hoped at the prospect of being queen, but it was safer than committing treason to steal a crown. He is facing a Tyrell this time, Cersei commented. Most likely one of Mace Tyrell's cousins, agreed Lord Tywine. His green eyes gleamed like specks of gold. Lord Stannis is coming our way, he said quietly. I expect you to be charming. Gloomily, Cersei awaited as the grim-faced Stannis Baratheon made his way to her side. Lord Lannister, he greeted, nodding at her father. My lady. He gave her a polite nod. They watched Jaime unhorse the Tyrell knight with ease. His Grace instructed me to ask you to sit with me, him, her Grace and Lord Tully for the duration of the tourney, Stannis said solemnly. I must also request you to sit by my side at tonight's feast as my betrothed. As you wish, my lord. Cersei smiled alluringly at him. It will be an honor to sit with you and your family. It will be our family soon, said Stannis automatically. Once all the details of the union of houses Baratheon and Lannister are formalized, we will leave King's Landing for Storm's End and wed. We cannot wed here, my lord. Hopefully negotiations would last more than a year. You are his Grace's brother. Stannis frowned at her. All lords of Storm's End wed in Storm's End, he said bluntly, as my father married my mother before me, and his father and mother before him, since Oris Baratheon took Argella Durrandon as wife. Before the end of the year, we will wed in my ancestral home and you will be the Lady of Storm's End. The king is more than pleased about it. He too desires to visit his childhood home. Or so he claims. Very well, my lord. Cersei could not suppress her utter disappointment. Why could she not be wedded off to a more handsome man who is not blind to a lady's charms? How in the seven would she twist him around her little finger as she did to Jaime? Stannis Baratheon was a man of iron. Cersei suspected he would break before bending to her or anyone's will. Her future husband nodded. Very good, my lady. He offered her his arm almost mechanically. I am to escort you to the royal stands. Helplessly, Cersei took his arm and he all but dragged her to the more comfortable gallery housing the king and his family. She repressed an upcoming scowl as she caught sight of the smug trout sitting at the king's side. She does not look the part of queen, thought Circe, as she murmured, "Your Grace," before seating herself down on a velvet-cushioned chair beside the trout herself. "She does look appealing enough," Circe grudgingly acknowledged, "but a queen must appear beautiful. She would be better off Stannis's wife and I King Robert's." The thought of a stag wedded to a trout irked her. Would not a stag and lion be a better match? "Lady Circe," said the trout of Riverrun warmly. "How good of Stannis to ask you to sit with us. It will be thrilling when you wed him, will it not? I will finally have the pleasure of calling you my sister." The last thing Circe wanted was a sister through marriage or otherwise. "It will be exciting," she lied, forcing herself to smile. "I thank the king and my lord father for brokering me such a grand match." It was an impressive match. Next to the king, Stannis Baratheon was the most powerful man in the Seven Kingdoms. Furthermore, without a royal prince in the nursery, Stannis was the heir to the Iron Throne. If Catelyn Tully happened to die giving birth to a weakling prince or another daughter, with the king following her to the grave, Stannis would ascend as king, with her as queen. "You look lovely, Lady Circe," Catelyn Tully complimented, her bright blue eyes scrutinizing Circe's elaborate braids down to her red gown. "I'm certain you will look equally splendid in gold and black. You look utterly magnificent, Your Grace." "Magnificent for a knight's wife. Where does she think she is?" "Riverrun." Her hairstyle did not suit a queen. Circe had seen many ladies who looked finer than Queen Catelyn. She smiled as the queen blushed a little. For the remainder of afternoon, Circe and Catelyn spoke a few words and watched the rounds of jousting. "Sir Jaime is one of the finest swordsmen in the Seven Kingdoms," Catelyn observed, as Jaime broke his third lance against Garth Hightower. "I'm honored to have him guard my lord husband." Today Sir Jaime had defeated two swans, father and son I believe, both of whom were excellent jousters. It is a pity Lord Hightower is keen for Sir Garth to wed. They call him Garth Greysteel. He would make an excellent addition to the Kingsguard. The king need young, strong men around him, with the exception of Sir Barristan Selmy, of course. Sir Barristan can still kill a dozen men half his age. Circe nodded. "No one can win against my brother." Catelyn laughed. "What of Sir Barristan and my uncle, the Blackfish? They are both very skilled in the jousting field. Jaime will cut those old men down as if he was cutting butter." Circe beamed as Garth Greysteel fell. In the next round, her smile disappeared as after 5 broken lances, Sir Balon Swan knocked Jaime from his steed. "I suppose it is fitting," said Catelyn, watching Jaime stagger up, his armor and cloak coated with dirt and dust. Sir Jaime defeated Lord Gillian Swan of Stony Helm and his heir, Sir Donal Swan. For the honor of his father and elder brother, Sir Balon won against Sir Jaime. Oh dear me, half the spectators are quite unhappy. They must have wagered against Sir Balon. The feast was splendid, the dishes were delicious, the music beautiful. Circe would have thought it perfect if she was not seated beside her sullen betrothed. She tried to talk to Stannis, but his replies were short and cold. By the 7, Stannis Baratheon was an icier man than Eddard Stark. "Father held a tourney in Lannisport once," Circe remembered. "I was a girl of 10 and Aunt Jenna told me I was to be betrothed to Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. The champion of the tourney was Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning, yet Rhaegar defeated 2 of her uncles, 12 of her father's best knights and Sir Barristan Selmy, before falling to the Sword of the Morning. That night, the prince played the harp. It was one of the few occasions Circe cried. The next was when the Mad King rejected the suggestion of betrothing Rhaegar to Circe. After that, there was no celebratory feast. "You are my most able servant, Tywine, but a man does not marry his heir to his servant's daughter," the Mad King had said to her father. Tywine had repeated it to Circe, and she had never forgotten it. She was glad Jaime slew the Mad King, and when Robert Baratheon killed Rhaegar Targaryen at the Trident, she wept, not certain if with joy or grief. Circe reached for another cup of wine. Was it her third? Fourth? As she sipped, she noticed Stannis's disapproving stare. "It is not proper for a highborn lady to drink so much wine," he said stiffly. "Not proper." Circe forced herself to remain calm. "There's no point angering her betrothed." "I apologize if I offend you in any way, my lord," she said civilly. "I am only nervous." "Nervous, my lady?" She looked up and saw a grinning Jaime stand in front of her, holding out his hand. "I will be honored if you will dance with me." He gave her a charismatic smile before turning to Stannis. My lord Stannis. He dipped his head. You do not mind if I steal your betrothed for a dance? Stannis waved his hand dismissively. Beaming, Cersei took Jaime's hand and they walked to the dance floor. I thought you needed a rescue, whispered Jaime. There goes the Lannister twins, a lady in blue said to her friend. The Lion of Lannister's golden legacies, the Kingslayer and the future Lady of Storm's End. Cersei lifted her head with pride. Even after Stannis places his Baratheon cloak over my shoulders, I will always be a Lannister, she vowed as Jaime's long fingers brushed against her waist. My future husband is a Baratheon, my future sons and daughters will be Baratheons, but I will forever be a Lannister. Chapter 17, Eddard 7. He named her Lyanna. Robert named her Lyanna. Ned wanted naught more than to disappear from the staring eyes of the lords and ladies. Why, Robert? What in the old gods and new could have possibly possessed you to name your firstborn daughter after your former betrothed, and the lady you launched a war over? Everywhere Ned looked and turned, he felt accusing Tully eyes bore deeply into him like the carved eyes of Winterfell's heart tree. If it was not Queen Caitlyn's usually warm blue eyes glowering at him, it would be Hoster Tully's icy blue ones, or the Blackfish's, or Sir Edmure Tully's. After his second cup of ale, Ned stood up. The celebratory feast was at its peak and Ned went to seek out his former foster father. Unfortunately, Jon Arryn was engrossed in a serious discussion of sorts with the Lord of Riverrun. Lord Tully, said Jon, catching a glimpse of Ned lingering tentatively in front of him, may we continue this conversation at a later time? I cannot help but notice that your daughter seems lonely. Perhaps a dance will remedy it. Hoster nodded. As you wish, my Lord Hand. He gave Ned a cool nod before making his way to Caitlyn's side. Jon gestured for Ned to sit. I believe you want a word with me, Ned. Ned sat down and nodded. It is about Robert. The old Lord of the Eyrie glanced around cautiously before he said quietly. I see. What is troubling you about our king? Robert named her Lyanna. He named his daughter with Caitlyn Tully Lyanna. Why on earth would he do that? I know Robert can be rash at times, but surely even he was aware of the trouble it would cause. Ned took a deep breath as he ranted on. If that wasn't bad enough, he betrothed Lyanna, it still pained him to say his late sister's name to my Rob without even a word of warning. I had no say in the matter. Jon looked around warily once more. Robert was foolish, he admitted softly, his once blue eyes now cloudy with worry. For the good of the realm, I spent a good part of the day placating Lord Tully. I told him Robert was drunk when he named his daughter after your late sister. I assured him the Queen was kind enough to agree willingly to it, but I doubt he believed me. However, Lord Tully seemed to accept it reluctantly enough, on the few conditions, well, those were between him and me. He chuckled a little before he eyed at Ned gravely. As our king, Robert has honored you as his greatest friend through betrothing his only child currently to your heir. I am aware of that. No. You are thinking recklessly. Where is the Ned I know? The Ned who does not rush into matters without weighing out the advantages and hindrances and even the possibly outcome. Jon always talks sense to me. He was right. Ned had been too shocked to even think about the benefits of the royal match. Even he, Ned, had to concede it was a tremendous honor for his house. He remembered from his history books and scrolls of the Pact of Ice and Fire, made between his ancestor Lord Cregan Stark and Prince Jaehaerys Velaryon on behalf of his Targaryen mother Rhaenyra during the bloody Dance of the Dragons. One of the conditions for Stark support was for a royal princess to wed into House Stark. The marriage never materialized. Now was an opportunity for another princess, one equally royal though bearing the name Baratheon, to be married into House Stark. Knowing Robert, he would be determined for the marriage to proceed once both the infant princess and little Rob are of marriageable age. I said Ned slowly. It is more than a good match. It is a grand match for House Stark. I doubt the Northern Lords will complain about it. With such a close connection to the king. Jon nodded with a faint knowing smile. He always considered you a brother, you will be related to him through marriage in a matter of time. I doubt Robert was aware of the political security the Stark-Baratheon betrothal brought, but I quite approve of it. It was one of the cleverest moves Robert made even though he did not know of it. Oh. You are an honest man, Ned, and one of honor. Who would be king if Robert would die young and without a son? Ned said instantly. Stannis would be king. Stannis is a just man and an experienced warrior, but not every great lord will want a king like him. Stannis is one who remembers one's enemy. He'll never forget the siege at Storm's End, and the Tyrells are aware of it. Imagine the years of war and bloodshed if the princess is betrothed to a Tyrell. Jon Arryn shuddered. The Tyrells thirst for power. And what better way than through a child queen? With the princess betrothed to a Stark, both she and Stannis are safe and the possibility of a civil war subdued. I thought the Lannisters are the most dangerous. Apparently the golden roses of Highgarden are more deadly. As are all the great houses. Some may say you are the greatest threat as the king's closest friend. Do you plan to wed your future children to northern lords as your predecessors did, or to southern lords? I will wed them to lords best suited for the north. Perhaps it will be to a few southern lords, maybe to a northern lord or lady. Jon nodded. Is Lady Stark well? Ashura is in blooming health. I count myself quite fortunate to have wedded such a lovely woman. It was all thanks to you, of course. I'll be more than content if Ashura bears me a litter of daughters. She had already given me one fine son. Robb will not be raised in a coddling environment, mind you. My natural son Jon already shares a nursery with him. Long before they begin their lessons. I also plan to bring in a ward or two, mostly likely sons of my bannermen. How is your lady wife, Jon? I hear she is now in the Eyrie. The right place for her, Ned. I will not lie, our marriage is loveless. I try to be affectionate to Lysa, but she hates me. I don't blame her. He sighed. I am an old man, old enough to be her grandfather. Here at court, it is no place for a sweet daughter of Riverrun. Lysa will be happier in the Eyrie. I hope she will love the Eyrie as much as we do. I need an heir, Ned. You are fortunate your lady wife had begotten you a son with ease. Lysa. I heard she had 2 miscarriages. My condolences. My first wife Jane died giving birth to a stillborn daughter. A miscarriage or 2 still brings me hope Lysa can bring to term a child. Even if she gives me one and it is a daughter, I will be content. Not many lords will be pleased with a single daughter, Jon. Randyll Tarly has a son and daughter and his wife is with child again. We can both guess Lord Tarly desires another son. If he had the fertileness of House Free, no one in their right mind would want to cross him. Jon laughed. Indeed. I won't be surprised if Lord Tarly dreams to be general of his own army, an army of his sons and descendants. Ned shuddered. My lords. Ashura appeared in front of him and Jon. My apologies if I have disturbed your discussion. My Lord Arryn, may I take my husband for a dance or two? All Lord Redwyne would speak about was wine and his mother, oh and his vessels. I grew terribly bored. She smiled at Jon. Of course Lady Stark. Jon nodded and smiled back at her. He looked at Ned and said, I suppose we shall speak again soon. I will not keep you detained here from your sweet wife. Ned nodded and rose. Taking Ashura's hand, they went to the dance floor a mere second before the band of minstrels struck the first note of the next song. Sweet. Ashura hissed in Ned's ear as he spun her around. What in the name of the 7 have you told Lord Arryn about me? Nothing, much. Ashura rolled her eyes. A likely story, Ned. Look over there. She discreetly nodded at the Blackfish dancing with a beautiful woman. Do you see her? She is Lady Bethany Rowan, formerly Lady Bethany Redwyne. Is she not comely and fair? She was to wed the Blackfish once, or so I've heard. She hissed with pain as Ned accidentally stepped on her foot in his haste to glimpse the lady the Blackfish had rejected about 26 years ago. Ashura was right. Lady Bethany Rowan was a beautiful woman. Even after birthing 3 children, Ned noticed she had maintained a rosy blush of youth in her ivory cheeks. She is indeed an attractive lady, Ned agreed, careful not to step on Ashura's foot again. She is the Queen of Thorns' cousin, Ashura informed him. Bethany's father is Olenna Tyrell's uncle. It would have been an excellent match for Sir Brynden if he had accepted it. Indeed. I wonder why our tourney champion chose to dance with her. Perhaps he finally found her desirable now that both he and Bethany can no longer wed each other. I must say, how did you know Barristan the Bold would lose against Sir Brynden? I'm glad you advised me to wager against Barristan. All thanks to you, I am now a little over 100 dragons richer after winning that wager, against the king. I truly thought we would be celebrating Sir Barristan's victory tonight. The queen must be delighted in her uncle's grand victory. Was it not charming when the Blackfish crowned Caitlin his queen of love and beauty with a wreath of roses as black as obsidian? No one can doubt his affection for his dear niece now. She laughed. Not that there were any doubt before. Where did the Blackfish find black roses? I heard they are even rarer than blue winter roses. I didn't think he had the time to go around picking black roses from who knows where. Ashura shrugged. It was quite a pretty wreath. Did you see a toy dragon in the nursery before we left? She looked at him, astonished at the change of subject. She frowned slightly as she spun around again. Yes, she said, puzzled. I was too preoccupied to think much of it back then, but now. Ned nodded. Something strange is afoot, he agreed. Who else could possibly know about Daenerys? All the servants are loyal to Winterfell, and if they caught a scent of her true heritage, they would not have uttered a word, except perhaps to warn me of the danger of harboring a certain person out of the goodness of their hearts. Who would send a stuffed dragon? Did you examine it? A little before we set out for King's Landing. It was made from fine materials and onyxes were sewn into it as eyes. Someone rich must have given it, or more like smuggled it to Daenerys. I suspect it is Varys. Why would Varys be interested in Dany's welfare? What if the dragon wasn't sent for Daenerys, but for Jon? Ned had not considered that. The last thing he wanted to think of was Jon and his Targaryen blood. No one knows. Except you, and me. And Howland Reed. I doubt your Cranogman friend would blab about a matter like this. Indeed. Howland always knew how to keep a secret. I wish he would visit us at Winterfell more often, but these days he hardly ventures out from Greywater Watch at all, according to riders and the rare Cranogmen I speak to. There must be an explanation for all this, but I trust Howland and believe he will visit when he is ready. What do you think we should do about the dragon? I hope the other servants have not noticed it yet. We need to tell Daenerys and Jon of their ancestry one day. Yes, but when they are children. As long as Robert Baratheon is king on the Iron Throne, the Seven Kingdoms will continue singing the horrors of the reigns of the Targaryen kings. They will cry out the abomination of incest, and the Mad King will remain in everyone's mind. Jon and Daenerys will be ashamed of their heritage and will hate themselves. No, we will not tell them until they are able to understand the world is a cruel place. Will they ever be ready to hear the truth? They have to know one day, and I will decide when. Believe me, Ashura, I have no desire to break their hearts. Ashura nodded as the dance ended. Hearts will break eventually. Before Ned could respond, the Kingslayer and his twin Cersei appeared in front of them, both flushed, no doubt from hours of dancing. Lord Stark acknowledged the Kingslayer, a smirk lingering on his lips. May I have your permission to dance with the lovely Lady Stark? No. Of course, answered Ned, his strained smile vanishing as he watched Sir Jaime kiss Ashura's hand. Lady Cersei, may I have this dance? He didn't want to dance a minute longer than needed, but with Cersei Lannister standing in front of him, it would be rude if he did not ask her to dance. I will be honored. Cersei smiled a little and took his hand. My congratulations on your betrothal to Lord Stannis, said Ned, spinning her around as the musician began the next song. You must be excited. It is said that your wedding will be one of the grandest in the history of weddings, next to the king and queen's, of course. Cersei laughed lightly with a hint of sarcasm. My father will not spare any expenses for my wedding, she replied. I am his sole daughter after all, and Lord Stannis is the king's brother. A grand wedding is expected, Lord Stark. Will you and Lady Stark attend? Of course. It is expected of us. It will be held at Storm's End, my lady. Yes, Lord Stark. My lord betrothed is a man of traditions, and he insisted for it to be at Storm's End rather than here. I would prefer if we wed at Casterly Rock, but of course that is out of the question. I'm certain you will look beautiful, Lady Cersei. Thank you, Lord Stark. Lady Stark looks lovely tonight. Ned nodded thanks. As do you, my lady. Luckily it was a short dance. Once it ended, he dipped his head and escaped back to his seat as Ashura exchanged Sir Jaime as a dance partner for the bumbling Mace Tyrell. Ned sipped a cup of light wine, his gaze settling upon Queen Caitlin. She seemed content. I hope she will not think me responsible for her daughter's name. As if sensing his stare, Caitlin looked at him and motioned for him to join her. Your Grace. Ned stood hesitantly before her until she gestured for him to sit in her father's empty chair. His uncertainty doubled as Caitlin gave him a warm smile and asked a servant to pour him a goblet of ale. I think you will appreciate a cup of ale more than wine, said Caitlin kindly. I do, Your Grace. Ned pretended to drink as she watched. Does Caitlin Tully have enough strength to poison me? Why would she anyway? Ned put the cup back down. You wish to speak to me, Your Grace. Why else would I summon you, Lord Stark? I have noticed my father's rather hostile glares at you. My uncle the Blackfish and my brother Sir Edmure had also both followed his lead, which is odd, as my uncle dislikes taking orders from my father unless it was on the battlefield. It may sound strange to you, Lord Stark, but I do not bear a grudge of any sort against you, even though the entire world may think I do due to my daughter's name. I doubt you will be surprised if I tell you Robert chose it and would not change it no matter how hard I plead or cry. It was in my best interest to agree with his choice. That was honorable of you, Your Grace. It wasn't honor, Lord Stark. It was duty. Besides, Lyanna is a lovely name northern too. Giving my daughter a northern name will reinforce our alliance, do you not agree, Lord Stark? I am most honored the king chose to honor my sister by giving your eldest daughter her name. I am very grateful. That was what Robert Baratheon would want to hear. Anything but that, he would dismiss with a scornful snort. It would have been a wiser decision to give his children Baratheon names. Ned had been so certain Robert would name his daughter Cassandra. I realize your father has a number of good reasons why to declare me his enemy, Your Grace, ventured Ned quietly. It was natural for him to think I was responsible for naming his infant granddaughter as my late. Caitlin shook her head. Please, Lord Stark. Do not dwell on the matter of my daughter's name. My daughter is Princess Lyanna Baratheon and she will retain that name till her death. My apologies, Your Grace. Be wary of my father, Lord Stark. He will believe the naming problem a smear against House Tully's honor until he is satisfied or placated. I often thought him as honorable as you and Lord Arryn, but after I married, I learned he was not as honorable as I believed. Lord Tully is an honorable man, Your Grace. Caitlin smiled. That is very kind of you to say, Lord Stark. She adjusted her wreath of black roses on her head before clapping politely as the dance ended. I see Lady Stark has returned to her seat, she remarked. She may be wondering where you have gone. You should return to her. Forgive me, Lord Stark, but I feel a little tired. If Robert inquires where I am, tell him I have retired. Ned nodded. As you wish, Your Grace. He dipped his head and retreated to his old seat as Caitlin gracefully rose and left. What did the Queen want with you? Asked Ashura curiously. Nothing much, said Ned distractedly. Before Ashura could question him any further, Sir Barristan approached and asked Ashura to dance. Ned had never felt any happier than to be left to his thoughts. After the council session ended, Ned left for the Red Keep's Godswood. It was not as comforting as Winterfell's, but a Godswood was better than no Godswood. With absolutely no interest in remaining in the south for long durations, Ned had resigned the position of Master of Laws fully to an astonished Hoster Tully. The Lord of Riverrun does not know my intentions at all, thought Ned, staring at the great oak heart tree. I have no desire to be part of the small council as the Master of Laws or serve as a mere advisor. Lord Tully is more than welcome to be the Master of Laws until he is weary of it or longs to return home. Speaking of home, Ned grew concerned at the virtually unoccupied Winterfell. The little ones were still there under the care of Maester Lewin and faithful servants, but what if a northern lord was to attack? A northern lord from a house with a history of rebelling against Stark liege lords. A northern lord like the liege lord himself, the icy Roose Bolton, lord of the Dread Fort. The more Ned thought about it, the more he feared for Winterfell. Lord Roose had been loyal till now, one of his most trusted generals in fact. However, his wife was a Ryswell, and Lady Dustin's sister. With Roswell and Dustin's support, Roose had the time and men to besiege Winterfell. House Bolton's reputation of flaying men did not help Ned's worry. How long will Maester Lewin and his men hold out against Roose with that in their minds? The Boltons must be tied to House Stark closer than ever. As Ned stared at the swaying leaves, an idea occurred to him. He hurried to his chambers and grabbed a quill and parchment. Lord Bolton, he began to write. For the good of the North and your loyal services to House Stark during Robert's rebellion, I wish to foster your son Domeric at Winterfell. Chapter 18, Lewin I. Ravens flew through and out the rookery windows under the watchful eye of the patient Maester Lewin. A flurry of letters had been exchanged between Lord Eddard, Lord Bolton, Lord Royce and himself regarding fostering. The fostering of the heir of the Dreadfort and the third son of Lord Royce had been finalized a few days ago, and today was the day they were to arrive. Lewin was more concerned for young Waymar Royce than Domeric Bolton. The Bolton boy was of the North whilst Waymar had lived in the Vale all his life. He hoped Waymar would settle in Winterfell without much trouble. My duty is to care for the boys, not cosset them. He'd never coddled anyone, nor had he been coddled before. Since he was a child, Lewin was destined for the Citadel, the fate of third son who was the lover of learning. Lewin descended down the stairs of the Rookery Tower and headed to the cold courtyard to await the arrival of Lord and Lady Stark's wards. The Maester did not have to wait for long. First to arrive was a party of 3, one bearing the grim Bolton standard, a red flayed man on a field of pink with red blood drops. The boy next to him must be young Domeric Bolton himself. Already 5 years old, the boy was tall for his age and had a solemn expression. The 3 of them rode up to Lewin, Domeric dismounting gracefully. Maester Lewin, questioned the third man. Lewin nodded. The man looked relieved. Good. My Lord Bolton does not like us to tarry, so I hope you understand why we cannot stay here for long. He handed Lewin a roll of parchment. This is from Lord Bolton. He expects to hear a fortnightly report about his son's progress, Maester. Very well. Lewin dipped his head as he saw Domeric gaze up at him. Lord Domeric. Was your journey eventful? No, Maester Domeric responded softly. On my lord's orders, I am to return here in a few months' time and to report my own opinion of Lord Domeric's progress. The third man spoke again. Lord Bolton entrusts this task to me, as I have known Lord Domeric since he was in the cradle. I thought it would be best to inform you of it now. Lewin nodded slowly. From what he gathered, Lord Bolton was a silent man, who viewed everything and everyone suspiciously, and quite right so. I will tell Lord Stark of your future visits, he said to him. Thank you. That will be greatly appreciated. Would you like to refresh yourselves before you return to the Dreadfort? You will return more speedily once revitalized. A kind offer, Maester, but a refill for our waterskins will be good. Our orders were to return to the Dreadfort once Lord Domeric is in your care at Winterfell. He paused for a moment. A loaf of bread would be nice, he added sheepishly. I am afraid we are low on travel rations. Lord Roose Bolton does not like to equip his men with a decent amount of supplies. I am not surprised. Come. Lewin beckoned for them all to follow him into the great hall. As a Maester, I insist for you to be well nourished before you return to the Dreadfort. Lord Domeric, I will have a servant show you your chambers. Lord Eddard Stark had decided for you to share rooms with Lord Waymar Royce, a son of the Lord of the Runestone, and eventually his own sons, Lord Robb and Jon Snow, when they are older. I trust it will not be a problem, Lord Domeric. The heir of the Dreadfort shook his head. No, Maester. I am eager for the day to spar against Lord Robb Stark. A shiver ran down Maester Lewin's spine. Did Lord Bolton beat hatred against the Starks into his son already? Lord Robb is still a little boy, he said carefully, scrutinizing Domeric Bolton carefully. Only 2, as a matter of fact. You will first learn swordplay with Lord Waymar. Perhaps one day when you, Lord Waymar, Lord Robb and Jon Snow reach manhood, you will have a chance to spar against Lord Robb, under supervision of course. Domeric nodded expressionlessly. Mayhaps he is tired. Am I allowed to ride here, he asked. My aunt gave me a pony as a gift for my latest name day. It was a pony from Grandfather Roderick's herd. Grandfather promised to show me all his horses when I am a little older. Of course you may ride your pony. Not today though, you must be tired, Lord Domeric. Ah, here is Desmond. He will show you your chambers and a hot meal will be prepared for you. Will you sup with us or alone? Young Domeric stared at him, his eyes pale. I would like to sup alone, Maester Lewin, he said softly. Perhaps when Lord Waymar arrives, I will dine with him if he finds it agreeable. His eyes flitted around the vast great hall. Winterfell is everything my father described, he commented. I am honored to be one of Lord Stark's wards. My father always held him in high regard. As a loyal bannerman should. I will have someone send your meal to you in a few minutes, Lewin said, pushing a flagon of ale and a plate of meat towards the two others. If there is anything you desire to know, please do not hesitate to ask, Lord Domeric. He smiled encouragingly at the solemn lorderling. Thank you, Maester Domeric, Bolton responded. I'm certain when my mind is troubled with questions, I will turn to you for answers. Maester Lewin could not fathom at the possible reasons why Waymar Royce could be late. An hour or two was acceptable, but 3 days. By the third, Lewin had no excuses to tell Domeric. Lewin was more than happy to begin Domeric's lessons on history, but he could not help but wonder at Waymar's lateness. Could the Honourable Lord Yohn Royce changed his mind at the very last minute and decided to foster his son elsewhere? Lewin doubted it. Before the sun could sink down on the third day, Sir Roderick alerted him to the sighting of an approaching cavalcade. The gates were thrown open and Maester Lewin waited patiently at the courtyard for the cavalcade to enter. A dozen men on horses rode in, all bearing the sigil of House Royce. At the head of the orderly procession was a tall man with slate-grey eyes and very bushy eyebrows, garbed in bronze armor inscribed with an assortment of runes and a cloak the color of bronze clasped around his shoulders by a bronze brooch molded into the shape of another rune. There was no doubt that man was Bronze Yohn Royce, Lord of Runestone and Lord Waymar's father. Atop the pony beside him was a lad of 6 of slender build and grey eyes and a slight pout on his lips. He donned a furred cloak too hot for a spring evening at Winterfell of the finest materials and was in a suit of armor similar to the Lord of Runestone's except obviously smaller. You must be Maester Lewin. Lord Royce's voice boomed across Winterfell's courtyard as he dismounted his horse and walked up to him. Did he bring all his retainers and soldiers here? Lewin could not help but wonder. Lord Bolton sent his only son to Winterfell under the protection of an old soldier and his standard-bearer. Lord Royce had accompanied his third son to Winterfell with a heavily armed escort as if he was heading to war, not bidding his son goodbye at his new home. Then again, Domeric was of the north. Lewin smiled at Waymar Royce as he climbed down his pony. Lord Royce. Lewin dipped his head to Bronze Yohn. Lord Waymar. Maester Waymar acknowledged with an air of arrogance. Oh dear, thought Lewin. Lady Stark will not be pleased at him already. If the gods were good, he might be able to change Waymar Royce's attitude given time. Forgive our lateness, Maester. Lord Royce boomed again. It was all my fault. I attended Lyanna Baratheon's first name day. Tony was injured in my last tilt against the Blackfish. Again. It was the second year running that the Blackfish won the tourney and his great niece's name day tourneys too. By the time my party rode up to meet my sons, we were already a day late. Will you stay at Winterfell for a day or two, Lord Royce? We need a respite and I wish to see my son settle at his new home before we return to Runestone. Very well. I will have chambers prepared for you, Lord Royce. I'm certain that rooms will be found for your men too. Excellent. I wish Runestone had a Maester as efficient as you, Maester Lewin. I envy Lord Stark's good fortune. Lord Royce patted his son on the shoulder as he barked orders at his men to dismount. Lewin led them into the great hall and insisted for Lord Royce and Waymar to sit at the high table. Lord Stark would have done so too. After supper, Lewin sent servants to direct the Valyman to their rooms before heading to the Maester's turret under the rookery. His desk, cabinets and shelves were already cluttered. Lately, he had begun putting stacks of parchments on his bed. Opening the window, Lewin breathed deeply as a cool gust of wind slipped in and explored his tower. Earlier that morning, he received a letter from one of the other Maesters in the citadel. Summer was approaching. No doubt the southern regions edged closer to summer already whilst the north waited patiently for its turn to embrace summer. Like everyone else highborn and low, Lewin prayed and hoped for a long and fruitful summer. Spring and autumn were usually short spans of time in comparison to summer and winter. Lewin vaguely remembered a spring many years ago that lasted 2 years. However, at the cost of a long summer was usually an equally long or longer winter. No one wanted a long winter. Lewin lit a candle, careful not to put it too close to his parchments or vials of herbs and liquids. He settled down and reached for a quill, a piece of parchment ready in front of him. Lord Stark, his quill scratched carefully on the paper. Your wards Lord Domeric Bolton and Lord Waymar Royce have both arrived safely at Winterfell, the latter accompanied by his father and his own men and the former escorted by no more than 2 men from Lord Bolton's household. The men from the Dread Fort have already left and I expect Lord Royce and his men will depart tomorrow or the day after. Your faithful servant, Maester Lewin.